to Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. We've got an interleague matchup for you here tonight. The Houston Astros, led by their phenom young shortstop Carlos Correa, back in the lineup after missing some games with a sore shoulder. George Springer, Jose Altuve, and others taking on the best team in baseball. Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant, and the playoff-bound Chicago Cubs. For the Cubs, it's about staying healthy and clinching when they can. For the Astros, it's about trying to make some ground over the wild card race, which is wild right now. So many teams vying for the last two playoff spots. As Carl, Dallas, and Tim were talking about, today marks the 15th anniversary of 9/11. A ceremony was held here before the game and at ballparks all around America, and we send our thoughts and prayers to all of those affected by that tragic day 15 years ago. And we join in with Major League Baseball in vowing we shall not forget. On to baseball tonight here in Houston. This is a big game. Every game is a big game for the Astros the rest of the way. They're holding out hope of making up some ground and getting into the playoffs for the second year in a row. You wouldn't have guessed it, Aaron, the way the season began for the Astros way back when.
You sure wouldn't. It was a struggle. And for a team, really for the first time, dealing with big-time expectations coming in, they struggled the first quarter of the season. But since those first 45 games, this team has really caught fire. They've played at about a 600 clip since, and their defense has been a big reason why. They lead the American League in defensive runs saved. The bullpen has gotten it together and will need to play a big role down the stretch, and they are anchored by one of the game's great all-around players, Jose Altuve, leading the league in hitting, and a MVP candidate right now in the American League. He's gone from being a hit machine to adding the power now to his game. Over 20 homers for the first time in his great young career.
Now the Cubs having a phenomenal season, 90-51. We talk about the offense. We talk about the depth of the rotation. We talk about the acquisition of Aroldis Chapman. Maybe we don't talk enough about the defense this team has.
Dan, the most overlooked reason why the Cubs have had so much success is because they can play some serious defense. In fact, they are the best defensive team in baseball, and they do it in a multitude of ways. Whether it's making the big plays with their defensive run save, the big catches in the outfield, throwing out runners. And you think about how consistent this team is. Think about that. 73% of balls put into play are turned into outs. Plus any ground ball that's hit, and this pitching staff gets a lot of them. Under 200 batting average on those ground balls in play, all leading baseball in those categories, and they do it with a variety of players. But how that translates is into their starting pitching. And for tonight, Jake Arrieta, who will get a lot of ground balls. When you think about opposing batting average, his BABIP, batting average of balls in play, is the lowest of this starting staff. And it's because he can pitch with that conviction, knowing he's got that D behind him.
And they know they're going to the playoffs. They know they'll be playing meaningful games in October. For more on that, let's go down to Buster Olney.
And the Cubs' magic number to win the National League Central is down to 6, which means that probably sometime in the next week, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, and the other Cubs will be dogpiling. Now, what awaits them in October is perhaps the most pressure we've seen on any team ever because of the popularity of the franchise and because of the 108 years since the last time the Cubs won the World Series. The Cubs will face the weight of history. Dan, back to you.
Buster, thank you. And although the likes of Rizzo and Bryant haven't been around nearly that long, of course, they can unburden generations of Cubs fans if they can climb the mountain and win the franchise's first World Series since 1908. Cubs and Astros when we come back. ESPN is presented by Taco Bell's new Cheesy Core Burritos, and in part by the all-new 3-row Mazda CX-9 and Liberty Mutual Insurance. Liberty stands with you. Lots of reasons to smile if you're Anthony Rizzo or a Cub or a fan of the Cubs, given the way things are going this year. 90-51, won 97 games last year, knocked out in the NLCS by the New York Mets, hoping to get a step or two further, a couple of steps further, and not only get to the World Series, but win the World Series for the first time in over a century. Here's the starting lineup for the Cubs tonight, and as always, it is presented by Taco Bell.
Well, Dan, no doubt the two best hitters on this team are Kris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo, but what gives this team depth is the fact that they have so many good hitters, and Ben Zobrist is only one of two MLB players that has more walks than strikeouts. He brings that on-base depth and influences this team the way he gets on base. And right behind him is Addison Russell. A lot of opportunities because of who hits in front of him. All 5 of those guys get on base a ton. So he has 88 RBIs, which leads the National League amongst shortstops.
On the mound tonight for the Houston Astros is right-hander Mike Fiers. Fiers, who was acquired from Milwaukee to trade last year, 31 years of age, threw a no-hitter last year in just his 3rd start as a member of the Astros, and he has always had, ever since coming to Houston, he's had a lot more success here at home than he has on the road. It's a rotation right now that is without Dallas Keuchel and without Lance McCullers, so they need everything that every other starter can give them. They've had a terrible time getting innings out of their starters in recent games, but as we mentioned, and as we showed you when we showed you the standings, they're still hanging around in the wild card race right now. A lot of Cub fans in the house. That's the way it has been all weekend, and that's the way it is everywhere the Cubs go these days. So interspersed with some Houston blue, you're going to see a lot of Houston orange, rather. You're going to see a lot of Cub blue. Dexter Fowler, the center fielder, hitting .267, will lead it off. And he'll take a strike. Mark Wegner is the home plate umpire. Quinn Wolcott at first, C.B. Buckner at second, and Mark Carlson, the crew chief, is at third. Fowler will be followed by Bryant and Rizzo. And the Astros, as they often do, in fact more than any other team, they have the shift on. They have 3 on the right side. Altuve is not deep, respecting the speed of Fowler if he hits a slow chopper in that direction. But Houston will shift as much, if not more, than any other team in baseball. One-two on the way, and a curveball is in the dirt. So there are different ways to go about it, with Houston shifting more than any team in baseball this year, and the Cubs shifting less often than any team in baseball.
And it was interesting talking to Joe Madden before the game about that, the fact that they do shift the least. You know, they were, back when he was with Tampa Bay, they were one of the first teams that really started to shift a lot, and he still feels like they shift as much as ever, but sometimes the opponents they've had, especially in the National League Central, don't require the drastic shifts. And sometimes it's about how you define it. So if you don't go all the way over on one side of the bag, it's not considered a shift, but they're certainly playing a shaded around version in some cases.
And a quick meeting between the plate and the mound, one batter into the game between Mike Fiers and Evan Gattis, as A.J. Hinch, the manager of the Astros, looks on. Kris Bryant is the batter now, one of the leading candidates, maybe the leading candidate for National League MVP. 37 home runs, just a point under 300, leading the majors in runs scored. All in just his 2nd year in the big leagues. It is amazing how many incredibly talented young players there are in the game. You start with Trout, who's won an MVP, Harper, who's won an MVP. You go to Bryant, who could win an MVP. Carlos Correa is a kid, and he's quickly developing into one of the best young players in the game. Addison Russell, just 22, quickly developing into one of the best shortstops in the game. Sharply hit and past a diving Gurriel down the left field line into the corner. Fowler steaming around third, heading home. There will be no throw to the plate as the Cubs have an early lead.
Well, the Astros were able to contain Rizzo and Bryant yesterday, but first at bat of the night for Bryant. He gets a ball up and out over the plate and just laces it down that line. And I love Dexter Fowler there with nobody out, not being satisfied with just getting to third base. He sees as soon as that ball gets down the line, he knows that ball's in front of him. He's making the decision almost on his own with a little bit of help from the third base coach, and he cruises home easily. Another RBI for Kris Bryant.
His 94th on the season. And here comes Anthony Rizzo. He's got 97. What a combination these two have become. Rizzo hitting .292, 29 homers. He's got 38 doubles. And like Bryant, all over the National League leaderboards. And facing a guy he's had a lot of success against. Not a ton of at-bats. But Rizzo is 6 for 9 with 2 home runs against Mike Fiers.
We've already seen the curveball a lot from Mike Fiers, and with this Cubs team, first time through the lineup, they're taking it a lot. But you think about the amount of times he's thrown it, they eventually get to the point where they can start sitting on it.
0-2 fastball up and away.
And that's what Fiers will try to do. He wants to control the top of the strike zone with his fastball. It's only 89, 90 miles an hour typically, but he's very effective at pitching up with the four-seam fastball, and then that's able to set up what's a real good straight change and that curveball that we've already seen a bunch of.
Left the curveball up, 2-2. He might want to control the upper end of the zone with his fastball. He doesn't want to have the curveball up there too often, though.
Exactly. He wants to start that curveball off of that plane where he's challenging the top of the strike zone with the fastball, especially to the left-handed hitters, and especially against a guy like Rizzo.
Rizzo hitting .331 on the season with runners in scoring position.
This is an area too, Dan, where he's been really good at making productive outs. And this is a situation, nobody out, man on second. Worst case scenario, you want to get that runner to third. He's been second in all of baseball in productive outs.
If you're Anthony Rizzo, if you're a 30 and 100 guy, do you think about productive outs?
No, it's not at the forefront. Like, he's not up there to move Bryant to third base. But, hey, understanding that there's a man on second, I want to get something in this situation that I can pull with authority to the right side. And if I don't quite drive it how I want, maybe I pound something on the ground, bam, I got a productive out.
2-2. Just low. Good take there by Rizzo, and the count is full.
That's just trust. I mean, that's a disciplined hitter taking a very close pitch that's definitely below the zone and trusting that he'll get the call.
The Cubs with an early lead and looking for more. Inside pitch hit to right field. Springer's going to make the catch, tagging at second Bryant, and the throw not in time, and there is a productive out.
We'll talk about that productive out. One thing that Anthony Rizzo is rare on is he'll choke up on the bat, and a lot of times that's going to sacrifice power, but for Rizzo it doesn't. But what it allows him to do in situations like this is it gives him the bat control with 2 strikes to be able to just get his barrel enough of it on the ball to pull the ball to right field and allow Bryant to get to third base.
Here's Jorge Soler. Of course, interleague game being played in an American League park. The Cubs using a DH, and Jorge Soler is the DH tonight, hitting cleanup. .246, 10 home runs on the season. Missed almost 2 months with a hamstring injury. But just another piece that Joe Madden has, whether it's DHing in an American League park like tonight, working him in and out of the outfield rotation, just so much versatility and flexibility for this Cub team. As you can see, the Astros bringing the infield in here in the first inning.
Well, and you have to. You've got one of the aces in Jake Arrieta on the mound for the Chicago Cubs. But this is another great example of why this Cub team is so great. Yeah, they can beat you. They're patient up and down the lineup. There's power up and down the lineup. But as we saw there with 2 strikes, Rizzo beaten a little bit on that pitch, still able to get that runner to third base and give a chance now to give your ace a 2-run lead in the first.
Great stop at short, in on the grass by Correa. Looks the runner back, throws him out, 2 down. Correa just back in the lineup. Missed the last 4 games with a sore left shoulder, but looked okay there. So now with 2 down, they can back up as Ben Zobrist comes up. Zobrist is playing left field tonight. Javier Baez is at second base. Way back when Zobrist was a younger man, he was a 6th round pick by Houston in 2004. Was traded to Tampa Bay in 2006 for Aubrey Huff. Of course, established himself as a member of the Devil Rays, eventually Rays, and signed a free agent deal in the offseason, 4-year deal with the Cubs, and has had a terrific year, a very Zobrist kind of year. Very productive, 83 walks, more walks than strikeouts. Joe Panik, the only other major league player who can make that claim. To right field, but Springer is there, and that's the inning. The Cubs get 1 on the double by Bryant, lead 1-0 with Arrieta headed to the mound. For the first year on Sunday Night Baseball, 1-0 Cubs as we look at the starting lineup for the Astros tonight as they try to take the rubber match of this 3-game series. Their lineup is presented by Taco Bell.
Well, let's take a look at that 2-hole. Alex Bregman, the 2nd overall pick in the draft a year ago. He has come up and had a major impact, DHing tonight. And after a slow start, he has been on fire the last 35 games, mostly playing third base, dealing with a little hamstring. And Yuli Gurriel has been outstanding since debuting in August. He has had a serious impact in the middle of this lineup.
On the mound tonight for the Cubs, Jake Arrieta, who hasn't quite had the season that he had a year ago when he won the Cy Young, but he has still had a really good season. A 184 opponent's batting average, that leads all major league starters. He's 16-6 with a 2.84 ERA. He's in the Cy Young conversation, so even though he hasn't been quite as spotless as he was in 2015 on any given night, he is still one of the best. George Springer will lead it off for the Astros and swing through a first pitch fastball, 0-1. Springer 26 home runs on the season. He's also walked 82 times. That's one of the reasons, as you can see, he has scored so many runs, 107 on the season. This is a potent lineup with Springer hitting first, Bregman, the rookie who's been on a tear lately, he's hitting second. Then an MVP candidate in Altuve hitting third, and then Carlos Correa, who's got 90 RBIs, hitting fourth. But for a lot of the younger members of the Astros, this may be the first time they have faced Jake Arrieta.
You know, whatever ends up happening these final few weeks for the Astros, if they're able to get back to the postseason or not, I think we're entering a very exciting time to be an Astros fan. With the young kind of two-way talent they have, Springer, Bregman, now that we've seen come up, Altuve, Correa. This is an organization in really good shape, I believe, for the long term.
Well, and I think A.J. Hinch has done a really nice job of also getting that talent in the right place. And this lineup is a perfect example of that. Having George Springer at the top, he has that on-base mentality that he strives in this position. Bregman behind him, Altuve now in more of a power position in the 3-hole.
And there's the leadoff walk, the 83rd walk drawn by Springer this season. And here comes Alex Bregman, just 22 years of age, second overall pick, as Aaron mentioned a year ago in the draft. Was an All-American at LSU, named the 2016 USA Today Minor League Player of the Year. And it was called up from AAA Fresno July the 25th. He started his big league career 1 for 34. He's hitting .329 since. And as you can see, has reached base in 24 consecutive games. He is legit. He is DHing tonight. A shortstop at LSU, but is starting to transition now to third base. Obviously, they've got Carlos Correa. Gurriel is at third right now. But long term, it appears the plan is for Bregman to be the third baseman for the Astros.
And then they've liked so much what they've seen from Gurriel, who's 32 years old. Probably start to transition him going forward, maybe to first base for the next several seasons here in Houston.
Snap throw down to first, and diving back in safely is Springer. David Ross getting the start behind the plate for the Cubs tonight.
Ross, who of course catches John Lester in all of his starts, getting a start behind the plate with Arrieta. And that's something that Ross will do a lot. Throw quickly behind runners. Runners will try and run against Arrieta, and runners have been successful running against him this season.
Springer 9 steals, but he's been caught 10 times. He is running on the 0-2 pitch, and it's fouled off by Bregman.
Well, there's a good example of that. Base stealers 21 out of 24 on the season against Arrieta. That's obviously a high percentage. And even though Springer has struggled a little bit in that area, they understand that with their athletes, this is a good matchup and something that they've got to take advantage of against a pitcher the caliber of Arrieta.
One of the few weaknesses for the Cubs, they've actually allowed more stolen bases than any team in baseball. They've given up 122 steals on the season. They got some speedsters in the National League Central, including Billy Hamilton, so that makes it a little bit more challenging for all those teams in that division. Ball one to Bregman. Although we won't see it on display tonight because he's DHing, we asked A.J. Hinch about the defense of Bregman, and he said, well, Nolan Arenado is the top tier defensively. He said whatever's just below that, that's the tier where he feels Bregman is defensively. And again, he's just learning the position, having transitioned over from short. Springer barely got back. He was leaning, a little bit of a stutter step, and he just did get back.
And you see Anthony Rizzo signaling to the dugout, no, he got back. No need to challenge this one. You see him just trying to time his jump a little bit, and definitely gets caught leaning there, but that hand just ahead of that swipe tag by Rizzo.
One ball, two strikes. There goes the runner. Throw down from Ross, and they got him. Springer aggressively trying to advance on a pitch that bounced just a few feet away from Ross, and Ross throws him out.
You know what? I have very little issue with Springer here. He reads the ball real well in the dirt. David Ross just does an outstanding job of deadening that ball right in front of him. And then once he gets his hands on it cleanly, it's an easy throw out at second base. A good read by Springer, but an even better play by David Ross.
And now Bregman goes around, and suddenly there are two outs.
Guys, if you're wondering why David Ross is catching Arrieta, which is unusual, it's because the Cubs, as they get closer to the playoffs, want to get their catchers familiar with different pitchers. Now, Ross caught Arrieta early in the year. In fact, he caught his no-hitter against Cincinnati in the start that followed, but really hasn't worked with him since.
All right, Buster, thank you. A big ovation here in Houston for Jose Altuve, who left yesterday's game, was suffering from a stomach ailment, had to come out of yesterday's game. It had kind of a 24-hour thing. He's recovered. He's back in there tonight. And although he has been slumping by his standards lately, you look at the numbers, and they're fantastic. He is without question an MVP candidate in the American League, leading the league in batting. And he has added more power this year. He's got 22 home runs, and he's driven in 92 runs. Leads the league in hits, as he hits one out to Russell at short. And that'll be the inning. End of one at Minute Maid, and the Cubs lead 1-0. Top two in Houston, Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. And the Cubs with a 1-0 lead as Addison Russell leads off the inning. The young shortstop hitting .243, but very productive. 19 home runs, 88 runs driven in this year, as he lines a ball into left field, a base hit. In fact, we got two of the most productive shortstops in the game in Russell and Correa. Russell benefiting to a certain extent from having a ton of opportunities with men on base and runners in scoring position. If you play for the Cubs, chances are you're coming to the plate a lot with traffic on the base paths. But that's not to take away from the progress he's made in his second year. Here is Javier Baez. He's starting at second base tonight. He can play all over the place on the infield and plays it all well. .268, 13 homers, as he hits one through the vacated right side for a base hit. Russell hesitated a little bit, then turns the Jets on and coasts into third, and the Cubs are in business.
These are two great approaches. Both Russell's looking for the curveball. That's how he got his base hit. And then Javier Baez, watch him just kind of shorten up. He's sitting middle away, and he just tries. He knows it's vacated. He knows that it's an open spot. So you see what he does with his swing. He literally just top hands the ball to get a ground ball through the side. And Russell, the anticipation, he sees it through. Did hesitate a bit, was able to get into third base easily.
So there's an example where the shift does not pay off, as the right side was open and Baez takes advantage. First and third, nobody out for David Ross, who's already had a good start to his night, throwing out Springer trying to advance. Ross, who's announced his retirement at the end of the year. One kind of quirky stat from this series: neither team has had a hit with a runner in scoring position yet in the series. 0 for 26. That includes the Cubs being 0 for 3 tonight. And that's how you get a 2-0 and 2-1 game in the first 2 games of the series.
Last night they had a lot of opportunities.
Fly ball to right field. Springer back to make the catch. Both runners on the move. You knew Russell would come in to score on the sac fly, but how about Baez taking second?
Well, a couple of things I love here is first Addison Russell running the bases and getting himself to third base as his own base coach. But then watch, Javier Baez has this play sitting right in front of him. He knows they're probably not going to throw it home, but he knows he can run at least halfway. And if he feels that that throw is offline at all, he can easily cruise into second base. And another runner in scoring position now for the Cubs.
And it would have been close at second.
Yep.
Had the throw been on. So that was definitely not a for sure I'm taking second base on this.
Baez, a guy who has been so good in so many different ways for the Cubs, wherever they put him. Here's Albert Almora getting a start in right field tonight. Jason Hayward not in the starting lineup for the Cubs in this game. Almora was recalled from AAA Iowa on Tuesday. This is his second stint with the teams, and he opened up some eyes when he was up with the Cubs in June and July. 34 games, had 7 doubles, a couple of homers, has played all 3 outfield spots, mostly in center. But the Cubs don't have a lock yet on who the 25 guys are who are going to be on the playoff roster, but Joe Madden likes Almora, and he's in the conversation for a roster spot.
Yeah, and for example, he likes this matchup tonight for Almora. Almora is a good high ball hitter, a good high fastball hitter, and Fiers is a guy that typically lives up in the zone, especially with the fastball, and his feeling maybe Almora can take advantage of one of those.
Now, we mentioned the Cubs with the big lead they have. They know they're going into October. We talked about Almora being one of those guys vying for a spot on the postseason roster. Joe Madden told us before the game he wants to rest some guys when he can. They'd like to clinch as quickly as they can, but then he'd like to rest some people here and there. They'd like to solidify. Reiner to third, and then the throw into right field. And Baez will do an about face and head to third on the throwing error.
Well, it's real nice reactions here by Gurriel, who does a great job of understanding that there may be a play at second base, which there certainly was, but perhaps just a little too quick with this throw and throws it right into the runner. If he waits another beat, then he gives Altuve to establish a place where he's going, maybe up and away, maybe on the inside part of the bag, throws it right into the runner. It becomes a do or die play over there at second.
So an error charge to Gurriel, allowing Baez to come to third with 2 down. And back to the top of the order for Fowler. Fowler walked and scored on the Chris Bryant double in the first. So back to the Cubs and kind of the roster composition. They're still looking to solidify a couple of spots in the bullpen. They're hoping to get Pedro Strop back from a knee injury, expecting to get him back. And whether it's Almora, Coughlin, La Stella, bench players vying for a spot. And of course, what the rotation will be. More on that later. Now a pitch gets through the legs of Gaddis, and Baez completes an interesting trip around the bases. We'd like to welcome those of you who watched Stan Wawrinka defeat Novak Djokovic for the U.S. Open Championship today in New York City. We are here at Minute Maid Park in Houston, where the Cubs have a 3-0 lead in the second inning on the Astros, as Fowler dumps one into right field for a base hit. He's thinking 2 and is in there in a slide. The Cubs got a run in the first on an RBI double by Chris Bryant. They have added 2 more runs here in the second on a sac fly by David Ross, and then a wild pitch bringing in a run, as the best team in baseball looks to take 2 out of 3 in the series and move 40 games over the 500 mark. And pitching coach Brent Strom is headed out to the mound for the Astros. Well, while we have a moment, let's show you, for those of you who were watching the tennis, let's show you some of the things that you've missed. MVP candidate Kris Bryant doubling home Dexter Fowler, who had walked, the 94th RBI on the season for Bryant. And then they've added 2 more runs here this inning. Addison Russell had a base hit. Baez with a base hit to send Russell to third. Ross with a sac fly to make it 2-0. Baez took second on the fly ball. Took third on a throwing error, came home on a wild pitch, so Jake Arrieta has himself an early lead in this game.
And uncharacteristically for the Houston Astros, as we've touched on, both these teams outstanding defensively, but the defense letting the Astros down with the throwing error to extend the inning, and then a pitch that Gaddis probably could have and should have blocked, making it 3-0 now for Jake Arrieta and the Cubs.
I want to thank you guys for not making fun of me when I turn Novak Djokovic into Jovac Nokovic.
I was
laughed.
just confused.
You laughed on the inside?
I laughed on the inside.
I think you might have laughed a little on the outside. Stan Wawrinka defeats Novak Djokovic
And we would never
for the U.S. Open
make
final.
fun of you.
Never.
Never.
Thank you.
Well, you saw Gaddis kind of raise that target again with Fiers, who likes to elevate his fastball, trying to elevate the fastball and get the chase, but I don't think they wanted it up and in there, and then it becomes a pitch that obviously you end up just trying to get out of the way, but they want to see if they can get something up there that they can get a chase with.
Runner is going on the pitch as Bryant pops it up. And Marwin Gonzalez back at first will make the catch to end the inning. We'll say goodbye to the folks watching us on ESPN2. We'll see you over on ESPN for the bottom of the second with the Cubs up 3-0. Cubs fans are feeling pretty good about the way things have gone so far this season, and how can you blame them? 90-51. It's just a question of when they clinch and who will they play in a division series. Jake Arrieta on the mound tonight. The Cubs up 3-0. You know, this is the first time since 1928, 29, and 30, when they did it 3 years in a row, that the Cubs have had back-to-back 90-win seasons. 97 last year, 90 already this year with 21 games to go. They had a 6-15 stretch leading into the All-Star break, and they're still 90-51. It has been a remarkable year for Joe Madden's team in so many different ways.
You know, I think they're the most complete team I've seen in some years. I mean, some overwhelming strengths, but really no weaknesses. You know, the back end of the bullpen has a chance to be a real strength, especially with the addition of Aroldis Chapman. The starting rotation has been dominant. The defense is the best in the sport. And I think we know about the lineups that they're able to run out and the many different options Joe Madden has on a nightly basis. The interchangeable parts and the depth of this roster.
There's a ball lined into right field. It's a base hit for Carlos Correa. First team to 90 wins this year. They haven't done that since 1945, which is the last time they were in the World Series. Haven't won it since 1908. They lead baseball in ERA. Only the Red Sox and Rockies have scored more runs than the Cubs. And maybe the part that doesn't get enough attention is how good a defensive team, especially on the infield, the Cubs are. Addison Russell could win a Gold Glove this year. Rizzo underrated and very good at first. Bryant, of course, has played third, left, and right, among other positions. And Baez, whether he's at second, short, or third, the three positions he's played the most, an above average defender to say the least.
And that's what's been so impressive. It's not like they have Gold Glove winners. Hey, this is your third baseman, shortstop, second baseman, first base every single night. They mix and choose depending on who they're playing, and they still have success. Whether Bryant's playing the outfield, Baez is at third, they can mix everyone around, and it's elite level position playing that they're able to play.
I love how it kind of starts, though. I feel like every day with Javier Baez, because he's such an impact defender that I feel like the days that they will sit Javi Baez on the bench are the days where it's a swing and miss righty that they may be facing where he's a little vulnerable. But if that's not the case, then they decide, all right, who's on the mound for us and where is the ball going? And if it, for example, like Jake Arrieta, where balls go to the middle of the field more, Javi Baez is playing second. If it's a guy like John Lester, a lefty, hey, more balls potentially to third base, we're going to play him at third. And because Zobrist and Bryant are so versatile and willing to move around, you have all these interchangeable parts, and you can take advantage of Baez's huge defensive impact.
And there's no indication that Joe Madden feels the need to settle on a set 8 for the playoffs. It's going to continue just like this based on the matchups.
And that's been asked throughout the season. You know, and anything about Chris Bryant is, you know, arguably he's the MVP candidate. He's one of the best players in baseball, and yet egoless enough to say, hey, you need me in right, you need me in left, I'll do it.
1-2 to Gurriel, and a chopper over the mound. Russell shovel to second for one, and that's all they'll get. And Baez wanted to make sure of the one. He knew he didn't have a chance at first as Gurriel bounces into the fielder's choice. You know, another guy worth mentioning not in the lineup tonight for the Cubs is Wilson Contreras, who the rookie catcher with a lot of thunder in his bat has also played a lot of left field, and he'll be a key part of the Cubs lineup in the playoffs. Everybody has injuries, but imagine what would the Cubs have done had Kyle Schwarber not got hurt at the beginning of the year. I mean, that's a potent power bat.
They would have crushed right-handers even more.
Yeah, but would Contreras have gotten the opportunity that he's gotten were it not for the injury to Schwarber, who they expect to make a full recovery and be back next year? It really is amazing how quickly, relatively speaking, it came together over the last couple of years. They went out and signed some free agents, of course, brought in some veterans, but how every young player that they have brought to the majors seems like he has succeeded so far. There's Evan Gattis for the Astros, big power hitting catcher, 24 home runs on the season and slugging over .650 in his last 14 games.
Well, he's been one of those guys that, like the Astros, got off to a slow start those first quarter of the games, catching more regularly, throwing out runners, and hitting the ball out of the ballpark. He's had an impact in getting these Astros to playoff contention.
You know, just about everybody, it seems, has a beard in baseball these days, and a beard can say many different things about a man. But I think both Jake Arrieta and Evan Gattis are saying, hang back a little. Don't mess with me. These are two seriously tough-looking dudes right now, Evan Gattis and Jake Arrieta.
Yeah, those beards are ready for October baseball.
Can't find a batting glove between them.
1-2. Curveball taken low. Gattis was coming off a surgery in the offseason for a sports hernia, so he wasn't able to catch at the beginning of the year. And then in May, once he was feeling healthier and was able to do more than DH, the Astros actually had him go down to Double-A for about 10 days in the middle of the season and catch there to get back in the groove and get his conditioning as a catcher back. Then he came back up and has caught most of the way since then.
And when they acquired him, I'm not sure they expected him to catch that much going back to last year when they got him from the Braves. But the fact that he's been able to catch, he's thrown out 50% of the runners trying to steal. Just more options now for A.J. Hinch from a lineup standpoint and a versatility standpoint as well.
And he'll just stand there with that bat kind of extended out toward the pitcher until the pitcher is ready to go. Chops it foul.
Just even his stance, the way he holds the bat. I mean, there's just something about Evan Gattis so unique, but the way the bat looks in his hands, it's like he's got
a lumberjack.
Yeah, exactly. So strong with his lower half. See him sit down in those legs.
Yes, he's such a big guy, crouched so much in his stance. Runner is going. 3-2 pitch, hit sharply to short, but the runner going will keep him out of a double play. Gurriel to second, 2 down. Well, every game meaning so much on the MLB calendar right now, and Wednesday night we got a doubleheader for you. The early game at 7 Eastern between the Orioles and the Red Sox. Both Baltimore and Boston picked up big wins today. Then Seattle. The Mariners also won today. They're still in the hunt. They are at the Angels in the late game Wednesday, and 1 week from tonight we will have the Yankees and the Red Sox for you. Boston beat Toronto 11-8 today in a crazy game. Each team used 9 pitchers as the Red Sox take 2 out of 3 from Toronto. Boston is 2 up on both Toronto and Baltimore atop the American League East.
That was such a fun game for a while there. Not with all the pitching changes, but just you knew, okay, who's going to hit home run next? I mean, that's what it was like. It was Encarnacion, then Ramirez. It was back and forth.
Well, and I think when you consider the atmosphere that's happening up at Rogers Center, I mean, that place is, you know, Dan, you live up there, so you know, but that place is going crazy right now. It is a scene every day, and now you pit 2 division rivals against each other, hitting homers. It's a lot of fun.
David Ortiz had maybe the biggest homer of the game, a 3-run homer off Joaquin Benoit in the 11-8 win for the Red Sox. So the Toronto loss and the Baltimore win mean that the Blue Jays and Orioles are tied for the wild card lead. The Yankees' 7-game winning streak was snapped today by Tampa Bay. So the Yankees and Tigers are both 2 back of the Blue Jays and Orioles. And then you've got Houston, Seattle, and Kansas City right behind them, still holding out hope of making a run. Colby Rasmus, the left fielder, hitting .213, 15 home runs. 3-0 Cubs is the Astros bat here in the bottom of the second. 2-2.
Perhaps a little up, but after a breaking ball got him to 2-1, he knew he was getting a heater and he sold out. A little frustrated, I think, that he swung through that, but perhaps just elevated enough to get to a weak spot for Colby Rasmus. But that's a pitch he wanted, went hunting for, and didn't quite get it.
Down and in with a hard cutter at 89 miles an hour, and the count is full. Arrieta, the Cy Young Award winner last year, and this year 16-6 with a 2.84 ERA. Coming into the game, he'd given up only 115 hits in 174 innings. And he has been remarkable on the road over the last couple of years, almost unbeatable. The count runs full on Rasmus. And he got him to win the inning, and there's no argument from Colby Rasmus. End of 2, 3-0 Cubs. Jose Altuve in conversation with Jess Mendoza when we come back. One of the best talents in baseball. Before the game today, he visited with our Jess Mendoza.
All right, 5 weeks around the time due date, you're going to be a daddy for the first time. Scared, nervous, what are the emotions?
Happy and nervous at the same time. It's going to be my first one, so I know that life is going to change, but I'm happy about it.
Getting any advice? Any?
Not yet.
Well, one of the things you've been a big difference this year is your leadership. You even get shown a lot more fire. You've been booted from games, calling balls and strikes, but you also call out coach stuff from the dugout. What has changed for you the most this year?
I mean, I think the guys inside that clubhouse, they fire me up. You know, we got a lot of talent, and, you know, people know that. We have guys like Springer, Bregman, Correa, guys that really want to go at that and win the championship. So, you know, they kind of encourage me to do that, and, you know, this has been a great year.
How have they encouraged you? What are some of the things they tell you?
I mean, the way they play. You know, it's nothing that they say. It's just the way they go out there and play. They really look like they want to go out there and win the World Series. And I mean, I can't do anything instead of playing hard with them.
You guys have a lot of fun, too. I know one of your best friends, Marwin Gonzalez, you're super close with Carlos Correa. What have been some of the fun, lighter moments this year?
You know, I think every time we win a game is fun, you know, but we have a great relationship, good chemistry inside the clubhouse. I mean, I'm close with Marwin and Correa, but I feel like I have a good relationship with everybody in the clubhouse and between them too, and I think that's very important for a team like this.
It is. You're going against a guy you've never faced, J.P. Arrieta, tonight. When you haven't faced someone, he's pretty decent.
Yes.
What's kind of your approach?
I mean, just hit the ball and expect to fall down somewhere. But you know, we got great teams. For me, he's one of the best pitchers in the league, but we have one of the best hitters in a couple of the best hitters in the league too. Inside this clubhouse, we got Correa, Bregman, Springers is a on-base percentage machine. We got Rasmus. I mean, we got a good team, and you know, I think he should be worried too.
You should be worried. All right, Jake. Thanks a lot, Jose. Appreciate it.
Well, he has worried a lot of pitchers over the last few years. He's a batting champion, and he might do it again this year. He's a 4-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger Award winner. He combines average, more power this year than ever before. Very good speed as well. He's won a couple of stolen base titles. And the first thing you tend to think or say about him is he's 5'6", and that makes it all the more remarkable that he is one of the very best players in the game. And if he finishes hot and Houston finishes hot, he could win the MVP.
Absolutely. I mean, the year that he's had and the power that he's brought. I mean, he's always been a guy that gets a lot of hits. But this year he's really upped his game, especially opposite field, just opened up basically the options or the lack of options that opposing pitchers can get him out. And he used to be so much more aggressive. And now he's a lot more patient, just changed his game in such a positive way.
Rizzo thrown out by Gurriel.
I mean, there's 4 or 5 kind of guys in the American League right now that could absolutely win the Most Valuable Player award. And I think it's really going to come down to these final few weeks of the season, and maybe who has that best finish, maybe who carries their team to the postseason. But Altuve right in the middle of that conversation, and like so many of the guys on that list and so many of the young players in the game today, one of the things you love about him is just the person that he is. I mean, there's a humility to him. But there's a confidence in the way he plays.
And there's a pride from being from Venezuela too. I mean, he has so many things. Whether he's going to be a dad for the first time here in a month, but he talked about, he's like, guys, tonight I'm on Sunday Night Baseball. My whole family is going to be watching from Venezuela. He was like a little kid, so pumped.
A.J. Hinch told us before the game a story about after they lost the division series to Kansas City last year, and Altuve did not have a great series. He was 3 for 22, and he feels so responsible to the rest of his teammates to be the guy they can count on, to come up with the big hit, and he didn't do that in that series. And he talked about how emotional Altuve was when he came into Hinch's office after Game 5, and basically it sounded like apologized for letting the team down. And this guy obviously has done so many incredible things for this team over the last few years, but that kind of pride and that kind of desire to help the team as much as he can, that could only help Correa and Bregman and all the other young players on this team.
Well, it was funny because when I saw him, he came out of the dugout, and you know, he was sick yesterday. He was throwing up, and so the first thing I asked him is, "How you feeling? How you doing?" He's like, "I know, I'm not hitting. I should be hitting better, and I'm doing this." And he goes through all the different things and adjustments that he's trying to make offensively. I'm like, no. He's having a great year.
Jorge Soler launches one to deep left center field and gone. 4-0 Cubs.
Look at the location of where this pitch is for Jorge Soler. It's going to be up out of the strike zone. And you're going to see it above his hands, and watch him get his hands to this pitch. You can tell he's sitting fastball. He's looking for it, but this is not a strike. It is elevated, and watch what he does with his bat. Still able to get a good angle to get underneath it to hit it out. But something that is not easy is to take your hands to that path to get a fastball that high up in the zone.
Yeah, there's a souvenir out there here at Minute Maid Park, and a Cubs fan got it. Number 11 on the season for Soler. Cubs have scored in all 3 innings now, and they lead 4-0.
That's a long way out there where he hit that too. I mean, that's where the ballpark really starts to get big. You're just to the left of that 404 sign out there, and where that high wall, and just kind of hit it through there, showing the power that Jorge Soler possesses. Look at that pitch up, and this is a line missile over that Papa John sign out there. That ball's still traveling as it's going out.
And that's the bait. As you see Ben Zobrist take the walk on a pitch up in the zone, but the bait of a fastball that is chest high and above is because of that. Anytime anyone who's ever played, you make contact with something that's right there and get even with it, it's got nowhere to go but out of the stadium.
So Fire's struggling here in the early going. He's allowed 4 runs through 2 1/3. And here's Addison Russell, who led off the second with a base hit and eventually came around to score. Joe Madden talked about, would love to clinch as quickly as they can, although he didn't say it in those words, but they'd love to, you know, it's a done deal that they're going to be playing in October, obviously, at 90 and 51. They'd love to keep winning and move forward and then be able to rest some guys. But at the same time, in the same breath, he says, but you know, you got to keep playing. You got to play for today. You got to keep, it's about the process and grinding, and he doesn't want to get too far ahead. And although players are out of the lineup every now and again, he's resting them. You still see that in-game intensity from the Cubs that you have seen all season long.
And that is a delicate balance of keeping these guys really sharp on top of their game. You know, as we've talked about, going to that 6-man rotation, guy like Jake Arrieta pitching on 7 days rest today, not your normal, but things that they feel like will hopefully pay off for them in what they hope is a very long October.
In all likelihood, of course, they will play the wild card winner in a division series. Although theoretically they could be caught for the best record in the league. Washington is 6 games behind the Cubs for the best record in the league. But in all likelihood, it'll be the Cubs against the wild card winner. in an NLDS. Fly ball to shallow left field. Gonna drop. Second hit of the game for Russell.
Well, this ball beats Addison Russell. We saw him hammer a breaking ball into left field his first time up. Here with 2 strikes, they continue to try and elevate that fastball. They get it up and they get it in on the hands, but just out there in no man's land and left. Another base runner now for the Cubs with a chance to really give Jake Arrieta a big lead.
So 2 men on with just 1 out, and here's Baez. Had a base hit his last time up. Took second on a fly ball, took third on a throwing error, and scored on a wild pitch. A guy who's just improved so much in the last couple of years. Offensively, he's cut the strikeout rate way down. Defensively, he was always capable of the spectacular, but has gotten much better at the routine.
And if you remember, when he was kind of coming up through the system, he was the uber prospect, right? The untouchable. But then all of a sudden, about a year and a half ago, with all the strikeouts that were mounting at the big league level, you know, really had a tough time, was striking out a lot in the minor leagues. All of a sudden, he became maybe a guy they talked about potentially moving, but he had lost so much of that value that he had gained as that uber prospect. Credit to him for making some serious adjustments as a young player.
Bounces one into center field, a base hit. Zobrist around third, coming home. The throw will be cut, and it's 5-0 Cubs.
I mean, that's a great example there. I mean, he's made really mature adjustments you see veteran players make to, you know, cover up some serious holes, and to do it as a young player with the confidence that he's done it with. We've seen it on display tonight. We know the great defender he is, but against the shift his first time, he beats that, and now in a run producing situation, hey, I just want to get something that I can drive back through the middle of the field. Gets a pitch up, gets the barrel to it. Another run for the Cubs.
And the biggest problem the Astros have had is showing itself again here tonight, as Yandel Gustave is up in the Astros bullpen. This is hard to believe, but Houston has only had 1 start in the last 10 games that has gone 6 innings. Only 3 of the 10 have gone 5 innings, and this one's not going to get close. Gustave's going to come in. Fires last just 2 1/3 tonight, and the Cubs have raced out to a big early lead here in Houston. 5-0 Cubs. To the bullpen go the Astros when we come back. Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by Residence Inn. It's not a room, it's a residence. And the all-new Audi A4. Back at Minute Maid Park in Houston, it's the Cubs fans who are having most of the fun so far tonight. 5-0 Cubs, as A.J. Hinch has been forced to go to his bullpen here in the third inning. And rookie right-hander Yandel Gustave, 23 years of age, out of the Dominican Republic, is in for Houston.
And obviously on in a situation where they're down big now, but he's come up and had an impact and added to the depth of the bullpen for the Houston Astros. You see obviously a very big guy, fastball mid-upper 90s to go with a slider on to try and limit the damage here against the Cubs in the third.
David Ross is the batter, had a sac fly his first time up, and takes a fastball in at 94 for a strike. A run in the first, 2 in the second, 2 in the third to knock out Fires. Popped up down the right field line, racing out. Gonzalez juggles and makes the catch. Runner tagging, heading to third, throw cut, and both runners will advance. Russell and Baez each moving up a base.
The Cubs just do so many things well. And this is another example of Javier Baez and all the little instincts and intangible things he brings. Look at him find the runner at second, know that he's tagging up. It's a real nice play by Gonzalez over the shoulder. But then he just kind of runs into second and realizes, I'm going to beat all the position players to that bag. Gonzalez comes up firing to third. You see Gurriel pointing to second, and Baez just kind of follows where the throws goes and moves another runner for the Cubs up into scoring position.
So second and third with 2 down. And now Gonzalez heading to the mound to talk with Gustave. I think they're going to appeal whether Baez left too early, and Gonzalez was explaining to Gustave how you have to do this. You set, you step off, and then you throw to first. And the home plate umpire is the guy saying that he didn't leave too early because the first base umpire was down the line watching the catch.
Well, remember, he juggles the catch here, so it's not when he first touches the glove, but when it ends up there. So does Addison Russell leave at that point, or is it at that point? And that's what's a difficult thing to judge.
Well, they appealed at first. Baez definitely did not leave too early. Now I think they wanted them to appeal at second and safe there. So the Astros trying to get an out any way they can.
And Carlos Correa right now is just explaining to the umpire the juggle. So I think what they're trying to do is just play it safe, knowing that it wasn't the initial catch, as you mentioned, Booney, but that's exactly what Correa is explaining out to the umpire right now.
It's a tricky play because not only are fielders running all over the place, umpires are running all over the place on this kind of a call.
Well, and you got to think too, Marwin Gonzalez, when he catches it, his back is facing the field, so it's also hard for a runner to see exactly when he secures the ball. So not a bad idea, at least for the Astros, to try to see if they did.
Kind of interesting that a young player like Gustave was getting obviously needed and got some instruction from Gonzalez on how to go about that appeal play. Almora swings at the first pitch, loops it to shallow center, and down for a hit. Great effort by Marisnick, but he can't get there, and 2 more runs will score.
Well, Marisnick, who's a really good defensive outfielder, especially here in spacious center field at Minute Maid Park, but he doesn't read this ball right away off the bat. And the ball gets in on the hands of Almora, but his first break is back, and he can't quite make up the ground as he lays out with 2 outs. But that close to ending the inning, but it's just 2 more runs now for the Cubs.
So 7 runs charged to Fiers in 2 1/3. We mentioned how short the starts have been for the Astros in recent games. It's hard to believe, but in the last 11 games, Astros starters have totaled 46 2/3 innings. They're barely getting 4 innings per start over their last 11 games. Now the offense has been better and the bullpen's been really good, so they're still managing to hang around. But without Keuchel and without McCullers, they're missing 2 of the key guys in their rotation, obviously, and they're just not getting enough innings out of their starters right now.
And it's a really difficult recipe throughout the year. It's a little more manageable in the month of September because you have the expanded roster, so you're not burning guys out as much because you have a lot more options, really starting from the early part and even the middle innings of games.
Dexter Fowler's up for the 3rd time in as many innings. Outside, ball 3. Heading into the game tonight, the Astros starters had a 7.55 ERA, only Arizona worse. That's coming into tonight. Add 7 earned runs in 2 1/3 tonight. Full count.
Well, it just shows you too, because of the games that they have won, how good they are in all the other areas of this team. And the bullpen is a highlight, the runs that they score, the speed, and usually the defense, although tonight it has been a weakness. But you look at their starters ERA, where they rank versus their bullpen, and how that has been a strength, especially since the All-Star break. But just think if they had, like you said, the starting rotation depth, guys that could go deeper, and just keep them in games. I'm not saying be the Cubs. I'm not saying be, below a 4 ERA even. Just keep them, get them to the bullpen in a way where they're still competing.
So they've got guys they've had all year: Fiers, Pfister, McHugh, but they don't have Keuchel and they don't have McCullers, and there's no guarantee they're going to get either one of them back. There's only 3 weeks left in the season right now. And there's ball 4 as the inning continues. So now here comes Chris Bryant in just his 2nd year in the majors. Won Rookie of the Year last year. Could he win the MVP this year? He certainly has the numbers to make a great case for himself. Has also been a part of that tremendous defensive versatility the Cubs have, whether it's third base, left field, right field, a little first base, and in a pinch some center or some short. You can put him just about anywhere. Doubled in a run in the first, popped up in the second.
And what's impressive about Chris Bryant, it's no secret where his strengths lie, especially in his power numbers. His ability to pull the ball so well, and really the difference that is from his opposite field power. But he'll pull pitches that are away, inside, all parts of the zone.
Safe at second. Boy, that was close with the naked eye, as Almora just does get back in there.
Altuve went almost like a first baseman and just stood on the bag and actually almost begged Gustave to make a throw. You see the slap tag, and it is very close.
They might have got him.
And the Astros are considering whether they want to have a look at this one.
I think he got in, but it is super close. Altuve just went and stood on the bag and kind of pleaded with Gustave to give it to me, give it to me. Nope.
And they're not going to have a look at it. Bryant with a 2-run home run in the 2-0 win for the Cubs on Friday night. And this one, well, Astros fans have been hearing about this ever since the Cubs got to town. Back in his draft year 2013, the Astros had the #1 pick, and they took Mark Appel, a pitcher who has never pitched in the majors, has had a lot of injuries, and was part of the package to Philadelphia when they got Ken Giles. 2nd overall, the Cubs took Chris Bryant.
Well, Well, I was talking about Chris Bryant and his ability to have such success when he pulls the ball, but you look at his slugging percentage opposite field, 244, third lowest in baseball. But when he is able to get a hold of the ball and pull it to the left side of the field, 995, second highest in all of baseball. And this is a guy, it's no secret, but it's because of what he's able to do to leverage his body. So it's not as simple as, okay, we'll throw him away, because when he goes opposite field, he's not going to slug the ball. No, he'll pull that pitch because of his ability with his height, his legs, the leverage that he's able to get. And that's why he has the numbers that he has, even though it's really to one side of the field.
Aaron, what do you like about his swing? What makes him so special in your mind?
And I've said this a lot. The fact that he's able to handle the ball up for being such a big, long levered guy. And I think over time we're going to see him become really deadly on the ball down, which is probably his weakness now. Down and away, he's a little vulnerable. But anything up and has plate coverage up, and then in the middle and down and in, he's very, very good at.
Takes the breaking ball for strike 3 called, and that will finally end the inning. 4 more for the Cubs. They're up 7-0. Welcome back to Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell. To the bottom of the third, all Cubs so far up 7-0 on the Astros. And Jake Arrieta's got a healthy lead here going to the bottom of the third inning.
So in between innings, Buster got to talk to Mark Wegner, the home plate umpire, and he told him that you can tag as soon as it hits the glove. So the bobble doesn't come into play when it comes to tagging up from a base, which, when you think about it, makes sense. Otherwise, you'd have guys perfecting the ability of.
You think I'm going to catch it now? Maybe now?
So thanks, Mark Wegner, for giving that to Buster.
Liner to second, caught off the shoe tops by Baez, and Marwin Gonzalez is retired.
Well, Jake Arrieta, what makes him the defending Cy Young winner is he's got swing and miss stuff with all his pitches. There was this four-seamer up in the zone. Bayou 93, a sink down in the zone. His cut fastball and his curveball. He can do it with a variety of pitches, but you see whether it's up in the zone, down in the zone, the different velocities. It's not just one or two pitches. He's got 4 going tonight.
And equally tough on both righties and lefties. This is just low to Jake Marisnick. The center fielder and number 9 hitter for the Astros, getting a chance to play much more regularly. Carlos Gomez, of course, was let go a while back by the Astros. Now with Texas, as Marisnick fouls it off. Well, Chicago played Houston in NFL action today. And the Texans won that one. They beat the Bears 23-14. So for the city, the Cubs are trying to exact a measure of revenge on the Astros here tonight. And they're off to a great start in a football score right now. Up by a touchdown here in the 3rd inning. Curveball grounded to short. Long throw, Russell in time. Speaking of football, Monday Night Football is back tomorrow with the annual doubleheader to cap off Week 1 at 6:55 Eastern Time. Antonio Brown of the Steelers taking on Josh Norman of the Redskins. And then at 10:15, it's the West Coast matchup. It'll be the 49ers hosting the Los Angeles Rams. Our coverage begins with a Monday Night Countdown at 5 Eastern on ESPN and also streaming live on Watch ESPN.
Where are you guys watching?
I'm watching Rams. Kidding me? It's right down the street now. See Rams Mania taking over Southern California. So much gear everywhere. Their headquarters is like 10 minutes from my house, and they're back.
They are back.
Eagles guy, right?
Eagles. Carson Wentz, nice debut today.
Packers 1-0. Jess and I are good. There's a fly ball to right off the bat of Springer to the warning track where Almora hauls it in to end the inning. 7-0 Cubs at the end of 3. Park between innings. Arbuster only had a chance to speak with Cubs manager Joe Madden.
Joe, Jake Arrieta's first outing in 8 days. How did he handle the layoff in your eyes?
Pretty good. I mean, the strike throwing's been there. I thought that inning he was just trying to throw strikes, a lot of 92-mile-an-hour fastballs. I think the curveball looks good, so I think he looks fine to this point.
How do you feel about your attention to detail tonight for your team, especially running the bases?
I love the base run. I've always been a big fan of good base running. We've done a great job. Javi always is in the middle of those kind of things. It's something we talk about a lot. I'm really pleased tonight.
Joe, thanks.
Why shouldn't he be pleased? 90 and 51 and managing what has been the best team in baseball all season long. As Rizzo, Soler, and Zobrist will come up here in the 4th inning against Gustave. Rizzo tonight, a fly ball and a ground out. And now a base hit. Already the 9th hit of the night for the Cubs.
And look where Anthony Rizzo, where he stands, but he still has the ability to get to pitches. As you see with this one on the inner half of the zone, just does a nice job of opening up that front hip so it gets his barrel to the ball, and he still gets sawed off a little bit. He's so strong, able to still get the hit with it.
So the leadoff man aboard for Soler. Soler hit a rocket to left center for a home run his last time up.
Another look at that home run back in the 3rd. It was a high fastball from Fiers that he's able to get to, and he hits it to a big bar to the ballpark. It knows right away that ball is not coming back. The huge power that he possesses.
Measured at 416 feet.
And this has been a good weekend for Soler, because Joe Madden talks about just the opportunity to get him consistent at bats. And because they have the DH, which they normally don't when they're playing National League teams, they've been utilizing him in that role to get him more at bats consistently day after day.
Booney, you talked about how Baez reestablished his value as he's come back. Well, the same thing has happened with Soler. Since he came off the disabled list from a hamstring injury, he's hitting .291 with 6 homers. And I know last offseason, some skepticism among other teams. Got to believe they're taking a second look at him now.
Well, and a guy who figures to be a factor in the postseason. Maybe not on an everyday basis, but everyone knows Jason Hayward has not had a good offensive season. He's a tremendous defensive right fielder. But the presence of a guy like Soler on the postseason roster, and who knows if Almora, Coghlan, other guys will be there or not, but certainly the presence of Soler gives Joe Madden the opportunity to maybe put him in the lineup, whether it's against the lefty. Of course, Zobrist can be out in right field if Baez is at second. And you know, the point being, which we've talked about a couple of times, is that no matter who they're facing and no matter who's pitching for them and what kind of defensive alignment they want, there are options for Joe Madden. He's got better problems than other people have. His problems are not really problems. Their biggest problem might be trying to figure out how to just choose 25 guys for the postseason roster, whether it's filling out the bench or filling out the bullpen.
Well, there's going to be some difficult decisions, and there are going to be some really good players and even some guys that have had big time impacts on this club this year that'll probably be off that division series roster because of all the depth that they've attained.
Here's Zobrist, who has flied out and walked and scored. Zobrist, of course, spent a number of years playing for Madden in Tampa Bay, so he's familiar with Madden's style and how Madden likes to move people around. And Madden can do way more of that managing in the National League than he can in the American League. And said this week, in fact, on the eve of this interleague series, that he likes the National League style of baseball much more than he likes the American League style. He likes the chess match.
Because he can do things like put Travis Wood in left field.
Right. Where he comes up with a web jam.
And then comes back into pitch.
Yep.
After he already did that game.
I think he's done that 3 different times this year with different pitchers. Pitch to the backstop, and up to second on the play goes Rizzo on the wild pitch. Well, speaking of chess matches, he does like making moves, and a definite out-of-the-box kind of thinker. I like how he was playing with bears. His chess pieces were bears.
Cubs.
Yeah, little cubs. It's an interesting 3 weeks, though, for a team that is on the verge of so much, but can't really openly say, hey, you don't want to look too far ahead. But how do you balance rest versus rust heading into October? But again, good problems to have.
You know, and of all the big acquisitions that the Cubs went and got during the offseason, head of the season, Ben Zobrist, I feel like, is one that helped change kind of the dynamic of the offense, because they were a big strikeout team, and I felt like that bit them in the postseason. Zobrist doesn't do that a lot.
Ground ball to the right side. Gonzalez has to race back to first and gets there in time. 2 down as Rizzo comes to third. That'll bring up Addison Russell, who's having a good night. 2 base hits, 2 runs scored already for the 22-year-old. Guy that Joe Madden was spoke glowingly of even before he made his major league debut last year, when we saw him in the spring last season, and all the talk was Bryant. He said, yeah, but let me tell you about Russell a little bit. He always thought that Addison Russell was going to become a very good player, and pretty quickly as well. Brandon Crawford won the Gold Glove at short in the National League last year. Is Addison Russell going to be the guy this year? Certainly in the conversation.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest development, you see this a lot of young players, it's not just the big plays, and he makes them look easy, but just the consistency with the routine, which for a shortstop is everything.
Well, I think that's what's been the most impressive thing to me, is we've seen the spectacular, we see the great range and arm that Russell has, but it's the consistency, the 1 error in the last 34 games. So he's making all the routine plays that you have to make. And I think another awesome thing about this Cubs team is
high fly ball hit a ton up onto the railroad tracks for his 20th home run of the season. Oh yeah, he can do that too. Give him 90 RBIs now on the year.
Well, you wonder how a young player is going to handle secondary pitches. We saw him hammer a curveball his first time up, a changeup last time, and here he gets a slider that just kind of hangs in the middle of the plate. And he leaves no doubt up on the train tracks out there on the left. You see the lower half go, the top come through. That's what creates the awesome power. And Addison Russell knows that ball is not coming back. There's a look from behind home plate. That slider that just did not do a lot, just kind of hung out over the middle of the plate. And ain't no doubt about it.
Almost through the windows.
Yeah.
Pretty low key for a guy that young who just hit a ball that far.
He's always kind of low key.
Yep.
But getting back to my point about him at shortstop, think about the impact positions, defensive positions on the field, like shortstop, center field, catchers. Wilson Contreras has come up and has become a huge part of this team. Addison Russell at 22 years old, manning shortstop on the best team in baseball. And I think a lot of that has to do with not only their outstanding talent, but the culture that Joe Madden has created, and that everyone has kind of bought in on the Cubs, from the veteran players down to the guys that have been around a couple years, down to the young, new impact players. It is a great, great culture.
2-1 the count on Javier Baez, who has a couple of base hits tonight, scored twice, and he's driven in a run.
Guys, that's what I thought of when the Cubs signed Ben Zobrist during the offseason. The initial thought was, you know what, Ben Zobrist is such a serious professional. He's going to have so much fun with Addison Russell, who's a lot like that, and Chris Bryant, who's kind of known among his teammates as being a baseball nerd, really into it. Anthony Rizzo, the great leader. It's like there's a thirst to learn in that dugout.
As Bryant, looks over the shoulder of John Maley, the hitting coach, the nerd that Buster referenced, learning more.
Quite a night, quite a season for the Cubs, up 9-0 mid-4. Bottom 4, all Cubs in Houston, up 9-0. Alex Bregman leading off the inning for the Astros against Jake Arrieta. It'll be Bregman, Altuve, and Correa. Arrieta's given up just 1 hit through 3. That was a Correa single to lead off the second. He has walked 1 and struck out a couple. A little bit high, and he falls behind 2-0. Bregman struck out his first time up. Second overall pick out of LSU just last year. One of just a handful of players from the 2015 draft who have already made their major league debuts. Ooh, right off the mask of Mark Wegner, the home plate umpire. And David Ross making sure he's okay, and he appears to be, but now the other umps are going to come in and have a look at him to make sure he's okay.
Yeah, this doesn't catch any of Ross, just straight off the mask of Mark Wegner. And David Ross right away turns around and realizes it catches him pretty good here. And Ross, who's dealt with some concussion issues, that's always what you concern yourself with. Guys behind the plate and umpires when they take it off the mask, but it looks like he's okay.
Hit in the air to right field, and Almora's got room shy of the track.
Well, let's take a look at, we talked about some of the power Altuve's shown this year, over 20 home runs for the first time in his career. What are the pitches that he's driven out this year? You can kind of see all over the strike zone. Likes the ball elevated, that's where he's really taken advantage, but he's got plate coverage with that power and handled some pitches down in the zone. And I think the biggest thing we've seen with Altuve, his hand-eye coordination so good. He's so good at making contact and squaring the ball up. This year, though, we've seen him go hunting for some pitches. So we've seen, as a result, the on-base percentage go up.
He hits this one hard and gone. Right on cue. Number 23 on the season for Altuve.
He's obviously been so adept at collecting hits over the years, but he can handle so many pitches. This year, I think he goes up there, especially before he gets 2 strikes, and when he's in hitters' counts, he's looking for pitches that he can drive, pitches that he can do damage with. This is just Jake Arrieta, I think, trying to get ahead of him with a big lead and challenges him in the heart of the plate, and Jose Altuve squares it up and hits a rocket into the Crawford boxes out there in left field.
And now we have a pinch hitter coming up for Correa. A.J. Reed is going to bat. Now remember, Correa missed the last 4 games with some inflammation in his left shoulder. So maybe it's just a factor of the score in this game, or maybe the shoulder's acting up on him. We don't know right now, but Reed's going to hit for him.
Well, you hope that's the case, that it is a factor of the score. You know, the injury that Correa is dealing with, probably not a surgery situation, but if it was a different time of the year, it's probably a possible DL stint. But no time for that right now, so hopefully it's a case of it not getting too inflamed on him, not getting any worse today, but just a precautionary thing of trying to preserve their star shortstop.
And there's strike 3 called to get Reed for the second out. Buster Olney is going to interview A.J. Hinch between innings. We'll hear that when we come back for the top of the 5th, so Buster can ask Hinch about Correa. Play Ball is MLB's initiative to inspire all forms of baseball and softball participation, making play opportunities available and fun for everyone. To learn more, go to playball.org. Cubs 9, Astros 1, bottom 4, and here is Yuli Gurriel, the 32-year-old from Cuba, who signed a 5-year deal for better than $47 million with the Astros a couple of months back. Spends a little bit of time down in the minors, and now has come up to play some third DHs sometimes, one start in left field. A.J. Hinch told us before the game maybe eventually gets a lot of time at first base. Really wraps the bat around a la Julio Franco for those of a certain vintage.
But what he's doing, he creates tremendous torque. And I'm actually a little bummed that we're not getting him as a 25-year-old over here in the major leagues at 32. I still think he's going to be a good and productive player for the Astros for a number of years. But look how he kind of wraps that body. But he's still short with his swing, and what happens is he creates tremendous torque, or that kinetic link. You see Javier Baez do it. He moves into that position, and then that lower half comes, and then the upper body comes at the end, and it creates awesome torque. You see the lower half commit, and then that upper body and the bat comes flying in last, and that's what creates the power for Gurriel, who doesn't necessarily have awesome bat speed, but still pretty good power because of that torque he creates.
For those who don't remember Julio Franco, he played into his maybe late 40s, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And wrapped the bat like that, maybe even a little bit more. Always hit the ball to right center.
Pointed the bat directly at the pitcher. Yeah.
And somehow into his 40s could still get the job done. Ground ball to Russell at short, and that's the inning. Astros get a run on the home run by Altuve. 9-1 Cubs at the end of 4. We'll hear from A.J. Hinch when we come back. Astros won between innings, Buster Olney with A.J. Hinch.
A.J. Carlos Correa comes out of the game. How come?
Well, a couple of reasons. I mean, one, we want him as readily available as long as we possibly can. He's got a shoulder injury he's dealing with. 9-0 game now, 9-1 game. I'm not going to risk a check swing off of Arrieta when they're so far ahead. We're going to have to win without him.
Jose Altuve, 23 home runs this year, career high. What's been the difference?
Pitch selection's a big deal for him. You know, his swing percentage is down a little bit, which means he's making better decisions on what pitches to swing at. And he's hunting some pitches a little bit better. His strength is coming in. He's become a better hitter, believe it or not, even after a couple 200-hit seasons.
A.J., thanks.
So hopefully nothing really serious about Correa, just the factor of the score, as A.J. Hinch said. A.J. Reed stays in the game at first base. Marwin Gonzalez will go to short, where Correa was. Reed pinch hitting for Correa, and the new pitcher is right-hander Michael Feliz.
Well, Michael Feliz, who's had a nice season out of the pen for the Astros, on for the 43rd time. That ERA a little high because he's given up the long ball, but look at the strikeouts to walks. 90 strikeouts in just 60 and a third innings. His fastball in the mid-90s, slider, occasional changeup. He has given up the 10 homers in those 60 innings, so a high number, which has contributed to that ERA being a little inflated.
The Astros very reliant upon their bullpen right now, and A.J. Hinch has 4 key guys that he uses when they're winning a game. It was the formula that he used yesterday to win a ball game. Chris Davinsky to Luke Gregerson to Will Harris to Ken Giles. That's the formula right now. Barring a dramatic, enormous comeback, we will see none of those guys tonight for the Astros. They've got a game against the Texas Rangers. They start a series with the Rangers tomorrow night. Their nemesis, the Texas Rangers. Houston is just 3-13 against Texas this year. It's a really tough stretch right now for the Astros. They're playing 13 consecutive games against first place teams. They're 4-5 through the first 9. Looks like it'll be 4-6 after tonight, and then 3 more with Texas. After that, they play only Seattle, the Angels, and Oakland. 3 teams from their division, and they're 29-12 against Seattle, the Angels, and Oakland. So they feel maybe if they can just kind of hold their own through this stretch and then go on a tear over the last couple of weeks, they still got a shot.
The Rangers kind of been their big brother, just beating up on them the last 2 years. Houston seemed like had the division last year, but really their performance against the Rangers, especially in the second half, ends up costing them the division. They would have to go through the wild card, and then this year more of the same. Really the difference between the Rangers and the Astros is the Rangers have absolutely dominated Houston.
Here's Albert Almora, who has lined out and had a 2-run bloop single to center. You got to think that teams like Houston, Detroit, if you look at the American League wildcard race, and again there are 7 teams within 4 games right now for the 2 wildcard spots. The teams in the East, and we'll leave Boston out of it for the moment because they're leading the division. The Blue Jays, Orioles, and Yankees have a tougher schedule left than the other teams do because they're all playing each other and they're playing the Red Sox. The American League East is the toughest division in the league.
That's why Detroit, who's right in the mix of the upper teams, there's a lot of teams listed there within 4 games, as you mentioned, but Detroit, at least seemingly, when you look at their remaining schedule compared to those AL East teams, that's where they seem to be the team that most likely will end up in one of those wild card spots.
There's another strikeout. Unforgettable games, undeniable greatness, and unstoppable drama. The 2016 postseason begins October the 4th. Go to MLB.com/postseason for a full schedule.
Ooh, it is that time.
It's the hunt for October, Aaron.
Yeah, it is. I hashtagged it today.
He's got a little big grin on his face right now.
It's a good time of the year. Wild card races.
It is.
We got action.
Yeah.
We got action.
And I know we all feel the same way, although we're all away from home a lot and it's a busy time, but a 163 would be fun. A little Monday chaos on the day after the conclusion of the regular season, although it would still be part of the regular season. But, you know, let's have a 3-way tie for the second wild card spot and see what happens.
Yeah.
Last year was my first year, and literally watching, because we had such a good shot at getting game 163, and I remember it was the Angels, the Astros, the Rangers. I had so many games going on.
Yeah.
I had 2 different flights going across. I mean, just that alone, you think about the possibility. But all the teams that are so close, it's hard to believe there won't be one.
Yeah.
If not 2.
There's an excellent chance on the last Sunday of the season we'll all fly to some spot in the middle of the country and just wait to see what happens. Safe at first is Fowler. They got him at first. Or did they? What are they? They are calling him out, but are they going to have a look at this one and see if his foot came off the bag? The Astros are very, very slowly making their way off the field. And now Joe Madden says he's not going to look at it. So he is out at first. The toe was just on for long enough, and the inning is over. Welcome back to Houston. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. The Cubs in a romp so far, up 9-1 on the Astros. Evan Gattis leads off the inning against Jake Arrieta. Pitch count is low for Arrieta. Gave up the solo home run to Altuve last inning. Extra rest for him coming into the start. He was flipped behind. Was moved back a couple of days. You know, this time of year the Cubs are going with a 6-man rotation right now. Mike Montgomery is in the rotation at least for one more turn through. So with a big lead, wouldn't be surprised to see Arrieta maybe not go that deep into this game. You just try to save as many pitches as you can for when it really matters the most. And obviously wherever he is in a playoff rotation, and you make a case for different spots. Again, no bad choices for Joe Madden, but Arrieta is obviously going to be a pivotal part of that postseason rotation. As Gattis lines a ball up the alley in left center field, and it'll be a run down by Ben Zobrist for the out.
This is one of the more difficult parks to be able to create this angle. And you got to remember, Ben Zobrist plays all over the field, but he understands where he's at in the park. Because where the stadium is configured and the walls are out there, you have part of it coming out, and for him to be able to almost sharp angle initially and then make up for it. Watch off the bat, he goes almost overruns it, but you see where it ends up, and that slight curve there at the end. And it's not an easy ballpark to follow the ball here.
It's an unusual ballpark. That almost 90-degree angle out there in left field. Of course, the hill. Towles Hill in center field. Ball doesn't find its way there often, but it does every now and again. It's always a challenge for a center fielder to try to run up a hill and make a catch.
And knowing when the hill's coming, I think that's the biggest thing. And you got to think for a lot of these Cubs players, they rarely play here. It's been 2 years since they've been in this park. The players that even were on the Cubs team 2 years ago. This is one where, as an outfielder, you got to look around constantly. How many steps do I have to that hill? How many steps do I have that jutting, pointed wall coming at me? So you know without looking.
Is Towles Hill, is it coming out?
I think it is. I think it almost came out after last year, but they set it back a year. I love it.
I do too. I can still see Lance Berkman doing donuts out there and falling down and making an awesome catch.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's the risk of injury for a potential injury for a center fielder to run up on that hill. 2-2 the count on Erasmus. He's played size and left tonight, but he's played a lot of center here. He's run up on that hill a time or two.
Erasmus knows what he's getting. It's going to be probably that two-seam fastball challenging him in the heart of the plate, knowing you don't want to get walked.
Weekly hit to the third base side of the mound. Got to hurry. Big stretch by Rizzo, and they got him.
So much athleticism on this play. First of all, it's a miss hit. So for Jake Arrieta to be able to read this and come off the mound so quickly, but the throw is off. And watch Anthony Rizzo, the flexibility to be able to keep his left foot on the bag while scooping the ball to get it in time. You see him fall there at the very end, but that position, boom, right there where he gets into, you see even where his right leg is. Very awkward, and Joe Madden told us of all the defense that they get credited for, the Baez's and the Russells and even the Bryants. Anthony Rizzo is someone, those 9 defensive runs saved does not get talked about enough when you credit how good this defense is.
2 down for Marwin Gonzalez.
How many first basemen have that type of footwork? I was trying to come up and speaking with Jed Hoyer, GM of the Cubs, the other day about Rizzo, and we tried to come up with a list of guys who have footwork like that. I mean, Brandon Belt might be in that conversation, Adrian Gonzalez, but not many.
I put Eric Hosmer, but you're right, not a lot at all.
And a great play out and right by Almora. The good defense continues for the Cubs. The good times continue for the Cubs and all of their fans who are here in Houston tonight. Still 9-1 Chicago. Today marks the 15th anniversary of 9/11. One World Trade Center, originally called the Freedom Tower. It was built in place of the Twin Towers that fell on September the 11th, 2001. The height is 1,776 feet, representing the year the Declaration of Independence was signed. The tower's observation deck begins at 1,362 feet, the exact height of the South and North Towers. Again, there were ceremonies held at all major league stadiums. In every game that was played today, including here in Houston, many first responders from the local area here were honored before the game, and a big U.S. flag was unfurled. And a tragic day that none of us who were old enough to remember will ever forget. And again, our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone who lost loved ones on that day 15 years ago today. We go top 6 here at Minute Maid Park with the Cubs leading the Astros 9-1. And the new pitcher is big right-hander James Hoyt. He is 6'6". As the first pitch is popped up into right field. And Chris Bryant is retired for the first out. This is a look at part of the ceremony that was here in Houston today and before the game. And again, something like this happened at every ballpark around baseball today, because of the time of year that it was. And then, of course, the World Series was played in New York in 2001 when the Yankees took on the Diamondbacks. And both New York teams, my memory says especially the Mets, were so involved in the aftermath of what happened on 9/11. Remember, our former colleague Bobby Valentine was the manager of the Mets at that time, and he and a number of players were down at ground zero. And it just, you know, I think baseball stopped for a week. For people who are too young to remember, baseball stopped for a week. Games were canceled from a Tuesday through the following Monday, if I'm remembering correctly. And then 1 week later, on the 18th, baseball resumed. And it felt like it was part of the healing process that people were trying to start to be able to have.
Yeah, and I think, you know, no one knew what to expect from a player's standpoint of going out and playing. Like, how am I supposed to handle this? And I think the first game being played back in New York for the Mets, as you talked about, and the home run by Mike Piazza, one of the more memorable home runs really in the last several years, I think, is Mike Piazza kind of providing a little bit of healing on that first day back playing our America's pastime.
You were a Red in 2001, and where were the Reds?
So we were in Chicago on 9/11. I just remember trying to make sense of all of it, right? Like everybody else, and busing home from Chicago to Cincinnati eventually, and you know, having an inter squad game at Riverfront Stadium in September, which just felt so weird, trying to get ready to come back and eventually play, but it was obviously an emotional time, and as a player, unsure of your role, but recognize pretty quickly that, hey, we are part of all this healing situation that goes on. And I think players pretty quickly realize what our role was, albeit small, in trying to help start the healing process.
Did the Reds, did you go to New York later on after that?
No, we didn't.
Yep. But it was for a New York team, in that case the Yankees, to be in the World Series that year seemed to bring even more to the World Series, because it was only, what was it, 6 weeks after 9/11, right?
And you hear people, you come across people all the time, and obviously a Yankee fan, you're either a Yankee fan or a lot of times you hate the Yankees, right? It's one or the other. I think that was one year where everyone had a little bit of Yankee fan in them.
Soler swings through it, and Hoyt has a very quick and clean 1-2-3 inning. Feels like it. Bottom 6 in Houston. The Cubs 9 and the Astros 1. Jake Arrieta still on the mound. Jake Marisnick grabs one down to third. Another nice defensive play. This time it's Bryant at third.
I mean, there's been about, what, 6 or 7 outstanding plays tonight. Really, all three outs last inning were on fine plays, and now here to start the 6th. Bryant showing off a little bit of his range and knowing who's running, knowing he got it quickly, and knowing he's got a big arm. He knows he just has to get himself in a good throwing position and let it loose across to his buddy. First out of this inning. Man, they're good on defense.
Here's George Springer. Springer has walked and flied out. Arrieta's allowed only 2 hits. He's had some great defense behind him. The only run of the night for the Astros coming on the home run by Jose Altuve back in the 4th. Ooh, breaking ball slips out of the hand. Crowd is booing the 76-mile-an-hour curveball, although it did appear to catch Springer in a bad spot. He's shaken up. Let's go now to our greater coverage of baseball plays of the game, brought to you by T-Mobile.
Well, we saw it last inning. Ben Zobrist knew where he's at on the field, makes a great catch over his head, and then at first base, Anthony Rizzo showing a little bit of flexibility, flashing the glove, and to end the inning, Alberto Mora getting a good jump, a nice diving catch. That's now 4 consecutive outs when you look at the first out by Bryant this inning, but we highlighted it in the open. This is one of the most underrated parts of the Cubs game. What really stands out to me when you look at 73% of balls in play, really think about that, are turned into outs. They lead Major League Baseball. Obviously, defensive runs saved, one of the biggest metrics for evaluating how good a defense is, but they lead in a lot of categories. And then what that does for a pitcher like Jake Arrieta and this staff, and obviously there's a ton of stuff that Jake Arrieta has with his pitches, but the confidence, the conviction that they can pound the strike zone knowing, hey, I got guys behind me, they're going to get the job done.
2-0 is fouled back by Bregman. 2 balls and a strike.
Well, earlier we saw David Ross with a great block in the dirt, and cut down Springer trying to get to second base there. He had another block on a similar pitch. It was a slider, cutter. Arrieta really just kind of yanks, and almost an impossible block. Not only does he block it, he deadens it. Keeps that force play and that double play still in order.
Bregman lines a ball to left field over the head of Zobrist and off the scoreboard. It'll carry him back in toward the infield. Springer around third will come in to score on a double by Bregman, and it's 9-2.
Well, this is such a tough play because of how hard this ball is hit. Off the bat, Bregman just crushes it. So Zobrist has to go back, but knowing where he's at on the field and the reaction that it's going to get off of the scoreboard there, you see it just react because it's metal. It flies back off, which allows then the run to score because of the distance. And this is such a hard play for an outfielder, but at some point when you're going back, you have to make the decision, do I have a chance to catch this? And if it's even no, you stop so that you can react, especially when you have something that's going to come so hard off of.
Here's Altuve. And he lines one into left field. That'll get down for a base hit. Bregman up to third.
Well, one of the things we've really seen with Jake Arrieta after getting presented with such a big lead is he's really been just pounding the strike zone, I think, with even more fastballs, more two-seam fastballs in the strike zone than even normal. And as a result, Bregman and Altuve, now back-to-back hitters, have really scalded balls. Wonder if now, having given up a couple runs, couple runners on, if we start to see Arrieta really pitch a little more now and try and avoid a little bit of contact, especially considering this could potentially be his last inning of the night. 82 pitches, big lead again.
And you can see Justin Grimm just now starting to throw. Chris Bosio, the pitching coach, on the mound right now. Here's what's coming your way on the MLB calendar. A doubleheader on Wednesday night. The Orioles and the Red Sox, both in that crazy American League East, both playoff contenders. They'll tangle at 7 Eastern. Don't sleep on the Mariners. They want to get a day. They're 3.5 out of a playoff spot. They'll be in Anaheim. And then we'll have the Yankees and the Red Sox for you 1 week from tonight. The Yankees had their 7-game winning streak snapped today by Tampa Bay, but the Yankees are just 2 games out of a wild card spot at the moment. Here's A.J. Reed. Reed came on to pinch hit. Is now a pitch in the dirt will get away from Ross, and that'll bring a run home. The wild pitch will score Bregman. Altuve to second, and it's 9-3.
Well, this is almost one of those impossible chances for a catcher. Rarely will a catcher doesn't really account for a fastball in the dirt, and Jake Arrieta just misses badly with that pitch. It's a 91-mile-an-hour two-seam fastball that hits out in front of the plate, and you just hope you can stop it. If you're Ross, that thing skips away. Another run in, and another runner in scoring position now for the Astros.
Almost another wild pitch, and the crowd is energized here in Houston. There are a ton of Cub fans, but "Let's go Astros" is the chant right now. Reed out of the University of Kentucky, a big guy, 6'4", 275. As he bounces one foul. The Astros have had Reed at first, Marwin Gonzalez at first this year. Tyler White, who got off to a great start but faded, wound up getting sent down, is now back. Rally cap, rally popcorn tub, whatever works, right? Altuve out at second, one down in the inning. The Astros trying to make a game of it. Boy, he got a pitch up in the zone and he fouled it back.
Well, remember last at bat against Reed, he struck him out on a two-seam fastball that he started in off the plate and ran back to the inside corner. This is a pretty good pitch to hit here for Reed. He just wants it down and away, two-seamer. It stays flat and in the middle of the plate. He can't finish it. But remember last time, he froze Reed with a two-seam fastball. He starts in off the plate. We'll see if he goes back to that or perhaps a slider or cutter off that same plane to maybe get a chase.
Went with the curveball, bounced it in, heading for third, and in there safely is Altuve. It'll be another wild pitch charged to Arrieta.
Just a great read. 9-3, one out. Hey, I want to get to third base. He reads that ball in the dirt quickly. He's in position to step up. That ball does not get far away from Ross, who does another pretty good job in the dirt. But no chance to get Altuve, who's too fast and too good a jump.
Full count pitch on the way. In the dirt for ball 4. Another base runner for the Astros. And Joe Madden has decided enough is enough. Arrieta extremely sharp through 5. But a hit batter, a couple of wild pitches, 2 runs in this inning, and that's going to be all for him. 9-3, the Cubs still lead as the Cubs go to the pen. ESPN presented by Taco Bell. Bottom of the 6th here in Houston. The Astros are trying to rally. A couple of runs in this inning. Arrieta out of the game. It's now 9-3 for the Cubs as Joe Madden goes to his bullpen for right-hander Justin Grimm.
Justin Grimm, who's had an outstanding second half of the season. Second half in 18 innings, 24 strikeouts and just 4 walks, on balance on the season, on for the 62nd time of the year, and you can see a pretty good strikeout to walk ratio, and on to try and kind of limit the damage here as the Astros try and climb back into this thing.
Still just one out in the inning. 2 runs in, and men at first and third for Yuli Gurriel. Breaking ball in the dirt. Gurriel is 0 for 2 tonight.
David Ross is having a night behind the plate too. Had some wild pitches get by him, but he's done a good job. A lot that he's dealt with in the bottom half of the zone.
Normally only catches John Lester, getting a chance to work with Jake Arrieta tonight. As Buster said, Joe Madden wants to mix it up a little bit so everybody's familiar with everybody should the need arise in October. There's a sharp breaking ball there and a swing and a miss.
Well, Grimm will throw that curveball just over 50% of the time. That is his one secondary pitch, and it is a weapon, as you can see. Big 12-6, tight, hard break. Fastball, he'll run up there in the mid-90s, but it's a little more curveball than fastball.
Curveball again, ball 2. Gurriel, a mainstay for a number of years on the Cuban national team, participating in a number of international tournaments. 32 years of age, just in the big leagues now for the last few weeks. Another curveball, and that one will get through Ross. Altuve won't risk it, but Reed will take second on the play.
Well, this is probably one that Ross should have or could have handled at least. He tries to backhand it, and it's that big curveball. You'd like to see him just try and block and smother that, as we've seen him do for the most part tonight. He tries to backhand, doesn't block it at all, and it kind of goes right through the wickets there and allows another runner to move up into scoring position now for the Astros.
So 3 wild pitches in the inning charged to the Cubs. 2 to Arrieta, now 1 to Grimm. And the count in Gurriel's favor at 3-1. Another curveball, and he walked him to load the bases. And Astros fans are fired up right now. Evan Gattis, the batter. Lots of power, 24 home runs on the season. And that's in 385 at bats. And Grimm starts him with a curveball for a strike. 1 career grand slam for Gattis. Cub fans were making all the noise early. Astros fans are drowning them out right now. Fastball sent foul, 0-2. Right off the end of the bat. Gattis making sure he didn't crack it.
After all breaking balls, really, and starting Gattis off with a breaking ball. There, a fastball at 95 at the top of the zone, and actually Gattis is a little too quick on it. A little out in front of it, off the end of the bat, just kind of cued it off to the right side. Now you got to protect again against that really good breaking pitch with 2 strikes.
Fastball hit high in the air to shallow center field. And Fowler coming way in to make the catch, and too shallow for Altuve to risk anything. Big second out for Grimm. So it'll be up to Colby Rasmus, the left fielder, who's 0 for 2. Rasmus does not hit for much of an average, and he strikes out a lot, but every now and again he'll run into one. He's got some power. 15 home runs on the season and 5 career grand slams.
You know, and he's actually a really good matchup against the curveball. He has a long kind of looping swing, and remember, he made those adjustments last season and really helped carry the Astros into the postseason.
He's got a home run in his career against Grimm. Bases loaded, 2 outs. And a strike. Swing and a miss there on a 94-mile-an-hour fastball. 0-1.
And right here, if you're Grimm, you don't want to necessarily not be willing to throw your curveball because that is your best pitch. But based on that first swing, Rasmus was really late on that fastball.
Throw to first. The runner dives back in. The pitch was a fastball that missed, and the count is 1-1.
You know, I think if David Ross doesn't throw down on this and he's able to really frame up this pitch, I think he gets it as a strike. But you see the quick throw down to Rizzo at first. I like the idea, but I think in this count, in the pitch location, almost stick the hold there, maybe get him 0-2.
Fastball again, missed away. So he threw nothing but curveballs to Gurriel, the first batter that he's faced, and nothing but fastballs so far to Rasmus.
That's all scouting report, knowing the kind of hitter that Rasmus is.
To center field, and that'll do it. Good job by Grimm. The Astros get a couple, but they're still down 9-3. To 1908 to find the last time the Chicago Cubs won the World Series. They beat the Tigers in 5, included 4 Hall of Famers. You've heard of Tinker to Evers to Chance. Joe Tinker, Johnny Evers, Frank Chance, and Mordecai Three Fingers Brown was a Hall of Famer on that team as well. And Orville Overall, man, baseball was cool then. Orville Overall won the Game 5 clincher, won 2 games in the World Series. They finished 99-55 that year, 1 game ahead of the Giants and Pirates, and then beat the Tigers in the World Series. I would have loved to have called a game that Orville Overall was pitching. And that made it 2 World Series in a row. Who knew that 108 years later that would still be their last World Series? But they've got an unbelievable chance, you would think, this year with the kind of team that they have. Anything can happen. Crazy things happen in October. But the Cubs have been the best team in baseball all season long. Pat Neshek is into the game now for Houston. And Ben Zobrist grounds one into the shift for out number 1.
Well, Neshek, another part of that deep and talented bullpen for the Astros. We've seen a lot of big arms down there. Neshek I don't know what he is. It's different.
Yeah.
It is. I remember facing him for the first time when he came up with the Minnesota Twins, and it is not a fun at bat. Fastball, slider, and almost like an eephus-like changeup, but it's an angle that you just don't see. You think he's coming from way down low, but he gets much higher than you think. Kind of jumps out at you. Kind of that quick windup. Looks like he's coming underneath, but then almost gets to low 3/4 up there. Definitely a challenge for the hitter picking up that release point. Here it comes, submarine. No, just kidding. Low 3/4. Let me sneak it past you.
What was the end result of that first at bat when you faced him when he came up with Minnesota?
I think I needed a new bat the next time. It was not fun.
Yeah.
It was a memorable, like, short list of, and when he first came up with the Twins, he threw a lot harder even, and it was just not fair for a righty.
Addison Russell having a great night. 2 base hits and a home run. He scored 3, driven in 2. So he's now got 20 home runs and 90 RBIs on the season. And he strikes him out. Watch the drive to the pennant with MLB.TV Premium. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on more than 400 supported devices and enjoy a free subscription to At Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV. You're going to want that over the last 3 weeks of the season. It is the hunt for October. There's a lot still to be decided, whether it's the American League East, the National League West, the wild card races in both leagues. We've talked a lot about the wild card race in the American League tonight because, of course, Houston is a part of that. Over in the National League, the Giants beat Arizona today. The Mets pounded Atlanta, and St. Louis lost to Milwaukee. So the Mets moved ahead of St. Louis for the second wild card spot. They're a half game up on the Cardinals.
And the Giants beat up on Zach Greinke, who's obviously throwing for the Diamondbacks, and that was a really good win for them. I think just watching their offense and the way they played that game. A team that looks like that they were going to drop out at least that top wild card spot there for a couple weeks.
1-2 the count on Javier Baez. This being the anniversary of 9/11, there will be a rendition of God Bless America during the 7th inning stretch, and we will keep it here for that. 2-2 the count on Baez. Baez 2 for 3 tonight. Couple of base hits. He's driven in a run. He's had some adventures around the bases. All good job by him. Aggressive base running, and it's paid off, but he cannot do anything with Neshek as he strikes out, and Neshek has a terrific inning for the Astros. 7th inning stretch, Cubs 9, Astros 3. God Bless America coming momentarily, and we're going to keep it here during the break here at Minute Maid Park.
The terror attacks on our country. We pause now not only to honor our great nation, but to thank and salute those who protect our freedoms around the world each and every day. Please rise and join from the Houston Fire Department, Jay Barktle, for the singing of God Bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam, God bless America, my home sweet sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
On the MLB calendar, got a doubleheader for you on a Wednesday night here on ESPN. The Orioles and Red Sox both victorious today. We'll meet at 7 o'clock Eastern. Then in the late game, the Mariners 3.5 out of a playoff spot right now, taking on the Angels. The Yankees and the Red Sox 1 week from tonight on Sunday Night Baseball. The Red Sox lead the American League East. The Orioles and the Blue Jays are 2 back, and they share the wild card spots right now. They're tied for that first wild card spot. The Yankees 2 out of the wild card race. Houston hoping to make up some ground if they can, but they're down 9-3 right now. Trevor Cahill, the new pitcher, fields the bunt and underhands it on to first just in time to get Marwin Gonzalez. Cahill saying, I'm a little bit quicker than maybe you guys give me credit for.
I got a little smirk on his face there. The former starter turned reliever. He's had another pretty good season with the Cubs. Pitched some significant innings down the stretch for them a year ago. Sinker, changeup, curveball.
It will be interesting to see how the Cubs bullpen shapes up for the postseason. If you look at the rotation, you know, John Lester could be a #1. Kyle Hendricks, Jake Arrieta, John Lackey is back. Jason Hamill looks like he might be the odd man out of the rotation. A lot of speculation that he could wind up in the bullpen during the playoffs, as Marisnick lines it into left field for a long single. John Lester is pitching unbelievably well right now. Given that, plus he's got great home numbers. And Arrieta, and we saw this tonight, at times he's dominant Arrieta, but at times hasn't been quite the same guy as last year. Again, hard to make mistakes in how you line these guys up, but it could be Lester and Hendricks 1-2 at home, Arrieta, Lackey 3-4. Then maybe Jason Hamill goes to the bullpen. Some speculation that they've got so many options down to the bullpen. Maybe a guy like Jason Hamill, who hasn't pitched his best lately, might not even be on the playoff roster. They've just got so many guys from whom to choose. Obviously Chapman is the closer.
And Rondon, you see there getting ready. He is the 8th inning guy, dealing with a little injury himself. His last time out was excellent. Of course, he was having a great year as the closer for this team before acquiring Chapman.
He's back from a tricep situation. Pedro Strop is still on the DL, a knee injury. Joe Madden told us before the game they do expect to get him back. If he's back and healthy, he's in there obviously, probably as the 7th inning guy. Here's a sharply hit ground ball, but right to short. High throw, but Rizzo brings it down and gets back to the bag in time, and that is an inning-ending double play.
Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN is presented by Taco Bell's new Cheesy Core Burritos and in part by Mazda. Driving matters.
Well done, Booney.
On to the 8th we go. 9-3 Cubs and a new pitcher for the Astros.
We like to let him take the training wheels off every now and again, but then he just zooms down the hill and around the corner and he's gone. Then we have to call the neighbors and find them. It's like the same thing every week.
Oh, that's funny.
They're so cute at that age.
Oh, he was so excited too. He sat down and paused, and he's like, "I'm just gonna keep going."
All right, tell us about Brady Rogers.
Now we can't talk.
There you go. He's got a changeup. He was a starter in AAA, getting an opportunity here in the month of September. He's had a tough couple outings in his first go around, but a real strong season as a starter down in AAA. Fastball, curveball, slider.
One to David Ross. Chases that slider outside. 1-2. After Ross, it'll be Almora, and then back to the top of the order for Fowler. The Cubs got going early tonight. They scored in each of the first 4 innings, 1 in the first, 2 in the second, blew it open with 4 in the third when they knocked Mike Fiers out of the game. 2 more in the 4th. And a swing and a miss. Ross is out. In the interest of fairness, Jess, read a promo.
The most popular way to follow September pennant races in the postseason is with MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. Enjoy game day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Get MLB.com at Bat on your favorite device now.
That was really solid.
If I get sick one week, we'll let you have another one.
Here's Almora. Now, Almora's 1 for 3, had a 2-run single back in the third.
I think Dan's getting a little.
You know, it's just all it is.
All his job.
It's job security. Yeah. He realizes every time we.
Although we don't have that peanut butter and velvet voice. That
go ahead. Go ahead.
Counts 1-1.
1-2 now on Almora.
Goat Busters. Yes. That's
classic.
Clever.
Yeah.
Got their cowboy hats for their trip to Houston.
This is a well-planned trip.
Yeah. Cubs will head on to St. Louis after this series tonight. We will see the Cardinals and the Cubs 2 weeks from tonight back at Wrigley. Just a question, it seems, of how many games they'll win, how far over 100 maybe they'll get, how soon they will clinch. A win tonight would make the magic number to clinch the Central 5. A great catch out in center by Jake Marisnick.
We've been giving the Cubs so much love, but Jake Marisnick, we talked about the depth and all the different positioning out in this outfield. You see the jump that he gets, and he's playing medium to deep, but his ability to jump, dive, catch this ball all in one, and he just missed one earlier this game. Almost same exact ball. This one he makes sure he secures.
And that's why he's out there a lot. He has not really swung the bat like they had hoped he would at the major league level over the last couple of years, but he can really go get him in the outfield.
Well, and you remember Carlos Gomez, who really struggled for the Astros, eventually was released, let go by the Astros. Part of the reason they felt like they could let go is because they knew in Marisnick, even though they knew he's having some of the struggles offensively, he is an impact defender, especially in a big center field here at Minute Maid Park.
The Astros bullpen, at least the last 4 guys, doing everything they can to try to give their team a chance to get back into it. Gustave struggled, gave up a 2-run homer to Russell, but after that, Michael Feliz a perfect 5th, James Hoyt a perfect 6th, Pat Neshek a perfect 7th, and now Rogers has gotten the first 2 outs here in the 8th. Just missed.
And every game's so important, obviously, for the Astros this time of year, where you're trying to get one of those wild card spots. But you know, with the Texas Rangers coming in, another big series starting for them tomorrow, well, one thing, at least you haven't burned those 4 guys that you want to use when you do have a lead. Those 4 guys look like they're going to get a night off, so they should conceivably be pretty fresh for that Texas series.
It's just so tough. Houston started 17-28, so coming into tonight they are, what, 58-39 since, but without Keuchel, without McCullers, without getting many innings at all from their rotation, it's so hard to put together a winning streak without getting good starting pitching, and they need a winning streak if they're going to pass 4 or 5 teams and make the playoffs.
Dan, that's why I wonder if, as we go down the stretch here, you might see the Astros begin to look into the trade market for a guy who wouldn't be eligible for the postseason but could help them now, like an Ivan Nova, the Pittsburgh Pirates, if the Pirates drop out, or Andrew Kashner of the Marlins. Both those guys are free agents at the end of the year. Maybe you pick them up for 2 or 3 starts.
And those are guys who would obviously not be eligible for a playoff roster. It's an unusual move. It rarely happens, but if it's something that can help get you to the playoffs.
Well, especially when you consider this Astro team is so dynamic and different. You know, their bullpen has the capabilities of shutting you down. Their position players, defensively and offensively, are a very good team. Obviously, their rotation, though, with Keuchel down, it is very ordinary and has a hard time getting through those middle innings. So all the help you can get to maybe give yourself an opportunity to get back to a postseason situation, I think you've got to consider it.
No balls, 2 strikes, the count on Chris Bryant. Doubled in the first run of the ball game way back in the first. 1 for 4 overall. 2-2. I didn't like it, but it did appear to be a little bit outside off the plate. Line to right field and caught by Springer to end the inning. They're the Goat Busters, and they're hoping the Cubs can put to rest once and for all not only the curse of the Billy Goat, but all of the curses that are alleged to have hindered this team over the last century plus. Houston, close out your weekend with SportsCenter at night. John Buccigross will have all the highlights from Week 1 of the NFL, the U.S. Open men's final, a busy day around the major leagues, the final round of the BMW Championship, and more. SportsCenter at night, next on ESPN, also streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN. Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, and A.J. Reed scheduled here in the 8th inning for the Astros. Second inning of work for Trevor Cahill. And a very quick inning in the 7th. Got the first out, then a base hit, then a double play ball into the inning. Chopper to third, just foul, and as it scoots under the glove of Bryant. So we were talking a little bit about the potential makeup of the Cubs pitching staff going into the playoffs, and so many different candidates. A guy like Cahill, who can give you multiple innings in middle relief. Travis Wood, a very experienced lefty who can fill a variety of roles as well. You know Wood is going to be there.
I really like Carl Edwards Jr. Every time he seems to come out, innings that he's pitched, he's dominated.
You know, Mike Montgomery's in the rotation right now, another lefty, but a guy who can fill a variety of roles. They've got a rookie left-hander, Rob Zastryzny, as Cahill strikes out Bregman, and Zastryzny has done well. Hasn't been up very long, but he's done well against left-handed batters. We mentioned they're hoping to get Strope back off the DL. Remember, they picked up Joe Smith in a trade. Yeah. I mean, they're going to have some hard choices to make.
And good ones.
Well, the Cubs aren't going to ever talk about playoff series to come at this point. But keep in mind, if you're going to play the Nationals in the postseason at some point, you're going to need lefties, Bryce Harper, Daniel Murphy, and the Dodgers with that very heavy left-handed lineup that they have.
And again, you can change your staff from series to series. You can have a different look in the division series than you do in the NLCS if you were to get that far, depending on who you would play in the NLCS. Altuve with a ground ball to short. 2 down. Cahill, an inning and 2/3 out of the pen so far, will now face Reed. Reed came on for Correa back in the 4th. Pinch hit for him. A.J. Hinch saying, well, at the time when he made the move, when he decided to make the move, it was 9-0. It was 9-1 by the time the pinch hitting assignment happened because Altuve had just homered. But saying, you know what, first game back, sore left shoulder or inflammation in the left shoulder. Between the score, said, you know, take him out and get him back in there against Texas tomorrow. Reed with a chopper to 3rd. In on the grass is Bryant, and that's the inning. 2 tidy innings for Trevor Cahill. Out of the Cubs bullpen tonight, it's still 9-3. Bringing it home, brought to you by Quicken Loans.
Well, Jorge Soler brought it home back in the 3rd inning, took a fastball up in the zone, crushed it out to left field. Addison Russell did the same. This ball hit so hard and far, almost went out the window here at Minute Maid Park.
Number 11 on the season for Soler, number 20 on the season for Russell. The Cubs lead 9-3. About the only time they really potentially might have been threatened tonight was in that 6th inning when the Astros had scored a couple and they had loaded the bases with 1 out. But then Gaddis and Rasmus both flied out against Justin Grimm. So they could not get that one more big hit to really get back into the game. Rizzo 1 for 4. Singleton scored back in the 4th.
Oof. Rare to see Anthony Rizzo get to his back knee on the ground. But he does it because watch his lower half. Takes a big old cut and wraps around. Kind of loses his balance.
And gets jammed a bit and grounds one out to Altuve for out number 1.
Shades of Reggie Jackson there with the number 44 going to that back knee.
One down here in the top of the 9th at Minute Maid. The crowd has thinned a little bit in the last couple of innings. Feels like more of the Astro fans, and they made a ton of noise in the 6th inning when their team was getting back into it. But after that, it feels like the Astro fans have started leaving. The Cub fans, they're still here. Many of them above the third base dugout. They're everywhere.
A lot more probably jumping on that bandwagon. I see it all the time. Living in California, I'm like, you were a Cubs fan last year. But it's definitely a fun team right now because of the history, because of the stars, and Joe Madden with all those sayings and T-shirts.
Soler gets a piece to stay alive.
So are they going to win it all, Jess?
Today, absolutely. I mean, there isn't a better team out there when you look at everything this team's put together, but that's a regular season. And you guys know, and everyone knows, it's different when that pressure comes, and you said it yourself. What about when they get a couple losses and their backs are against the wall? That's when I think the magic of Joe Madden doesn't come out.
Looked outside, but Soler gets rung up for the second out. All right, so let's ask each, Cubs or the field?
So, Jess, you're taking the Cubs, right? I'll take the field just because it's so hard to navigate all those series. There's no question in my mind the Cubs are the best team, but a lot can happen in October.
Buster, break the tie. Cubs or the field?
Yeah, for the record, guys, I tweeted out in January that the Cubs are going to be my pick to win the World Series because I knew the bandwagon was going to fill up in a hurry, and I got the front seat.
He's driving the bus.
Who did you guys pick in March when we had to make our picks online? Who did you pick to win the World Series?
I had the Astros.
I had the Royals.
I had the Royals.
I had the Cubs.
Uh-oh. So we know where Dan's at.
You said you had the Royals, Buster?
I had the Royals losing to the Cubs in the World Series.
Oh, yeah, the Royals losing to the Cubs. So you had the Cubs winning the World Series.
I had the Cubs in January.
Oh, okay. All right.
Back months ago.
All right. All right, Buster.
Wow.
2 down for Ben Zobrist. They had a great team last year, and they ran into some incredible starting pitching from the Mets in the National League Championship Series after they had beaten the Cardinals in the Division Series. They had a great team last year, won 97 games. They have a better team this year. Popped up into shallow right field. It'll be Springer. And that's the inning. We'll go to the bottom of the 9th. The Cubs lead Houston 9-3. Cub fans maybe already fast forwarding in their mind a little bit, thinking about what October could be like this year. Cub Nation enjoying their night tonight here in Houston. 9-3 the Cubs lead going to the bottom of the ninth. 9-4. Yuli Gurriel launches one out to left, his third big league home run.
Well, Gurriel, who's had an impact since coming up, his third home run, just jumps on a first pitch, little Cahill trying to get ahead with that two-seam fastball, and Gurriel knows it right away. See that swing that he gets so much torque with, that lower half goes, then he's able to get the barrel to the ball at the right spot. I'm talking to A.J. Hinch before the game, he talked about just he's got that ability, that knack that some really good hitters do of putting barrel on ball. And he certainly did there.
Now Evan Gattis launches one. Even further. 9-5. 2 pitches and 2 home runs this inning.
Well, this is 90 and middle, and Evan Gattis, we talked about his lower half, how powerful it is. He gets a pitch, center cut, that he just jacks. No doubt about it. Clears that entire wall. Hit it up into all of that.
That's a long way. Because that's over by where the park starts to get a lot deeper, so to go up on the tracks, that's a bomb.
Ninth inning, 2 pitches, 2 swings, 2 home runs. Yuli Gurriel hit the first pitch of the inning from Trevor Cahill for a home run to deep left, and then Evan Gattis came up and hit one even further as he launched one to left center field. Back-to-back home runs to begin the inning and make it 9-5 for the Cubs, and lead to another pitching change. But Bobby Dynamite, the guy who runs the train up there that goes back and forth every time they hit a home run, he's fired up. He believes there is still a chance for the Astros to get back into this game. And who's going to argue with Bobby Dynamite? New pitcher and a pinch hitter. Travis Wood is on the mound for the Cubs, and Teoscar Hernandez is the pinch hitter. Wood, a very useful, versatile guy for the Cubs again this season.
Yeah, he's really dominated lefties, but a guy that's throughout his career gotten both righties and lefties out, been a starter much of his career. Now a very valuable piece to Joe Madden's bullpen. And there's Teoscar Hernandez, who had a real nice season in Double and Triple-A this year, had 34 combined stolen bases between Double and Triple-A. Now getting an opportunity here with the big club and on in a pitch hit situation. Try and eat away at that Cub lead.
Has shown some power. 64 major league at bats, 3 homers, 4 doubles. He's batting for Colby Rasmus. And just in case, Joe Madden has gotten Aroldis Chapman up in the pen. Well, at 9-0, you didn't expect that he might be warming up at some point tonight. Fly ball to right field for the first out. More baseball coming your way Wednesday night, a doubleheader. In fact, the Orioles and the Red Sox in that tangled American League East, and then the Mariners and the Angels in the late game Wednesday night. Sports Center is coming up next here on ESPN. Those Dallas Keuchel little dolls. That's Astros hoping that Keuchel can come back at some point this year.
I'll pick you up one of those. You'd need 3 of those, right?
I would need 3 of those. That's correct. Yeah. I got to tell you, I was in this ballpark 2 weeks ago on a trip, a tour I do with my son every year. They have more hats for sale, more different kinds of caps for sale than I've ever seen anywhere else. All kinds of great retro stuff, all the different looks. It's a great store. They got a ton of stuff for sale.
I think the Astros have done a great job now with their uniforms the last couple of years of kind of honoring that past with a taste of the present.
Yep.
And they've got some really cool uniforms now here in Houston, and with a really exciting, great up and coming young team.
I was down in Puerto Rico to work on a piece on Carlos Correa during the winter. You guys would not believe how many Astros hats and T-shirts they have down there.
Yep.
Probably open up a store down there. His influence.
There's the tribute to the old uniforms there. They're red, orange, and yellow. In the dirt, a ball and 2 strikes. If the Astros lose this game, though, they lose ground. There's so many teams involved. If you win, you know you're going to pick up ground on somebody. If you lose, you know you're going to lose ground on somebody. And a loss for Houston today would drop them to 75 and 68. They would be 3.5 back of a playoff spot. Swing and a miss, 2 down. At the moment, the Blue Jays and Orioles are tied, so they're the 2 wild card teams. The Tigers and Yankees are 2 back. And the Astros, if they lose this one, and the Mariners would be 3.5 back. The Royals 4 back. 7 teams in effect vying for 2 playoff spots, although certainly Boston has not run away with the American League East. They're 2 up on Toronto and Baltimore right now, and all those teams play each other over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be crazy.
Well, I'm even interested in a week from now when we have the Yankees and Red Sox, and you think just when we look at those standings at that point, how those teams, I guarantee, are going to be all mixed around, still within a game of each other, having gone head-to-head, and the Astros having faced the Rangers 3 times.
Ground ball to third, scooped up by Bryant, and the Cubs win it. They come to Houston. They take 2 out of 3. Their magic number to clinch the National League Central Division Championship is now 5. A win for Jake Arrieta. A lot of power shown by the Cubs in this game. Soler and Russell homer. And the best team in baseball moves to 40 games over 500 once again at 91 and 51. The Astros, meanwhile, 3.5 out of a playoff spot with 3 weeks to go. The final score, the Cubs 9 and the Astros 5. For Aaron Boone, Jessica Mendoza, and Buster Olney, I'm Dan Schulman saying so long from Minute Maid Park. Sports Center with John Buccigross is next.